Good evening, guys, and welcome to day 2 of the Anger Games. I'm Dirk. I'm going to be hosting with you tonight. I'm joined currently by Midtier and Aurora, who you'll see on camera there. Say hi, guys.
Hello.
Oh, us. Yes, hello. For some reason, I thought you were asking the audience to say hi. Sorry.
Well, the audience
Long
can
night.
say hi if they like. We're also joined by CCP Swift.
Hey, how's it going? I'm not on camera, but I am very much here in the background and able to talk.
And we also have Virian Stoneshard, who's a team captain who's not playing today. Virian, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. I got a little bit sick after yesterday, but I can't complain. Got beyond some matches to watch today, so that'll make up for it.
Yeah, fantastic. So just to talk a little bit about how the day 2 schedule is going to go, we're going to try and alternate a little bit between winners and losers brackets. So the first game up is going to be RamRod Shenanigans versus 2 Rigs 1 Ship in the losers bracket, and then that'll be relatively quickly followed by a winners bracket match between the Network and Goondra Unloaded. I think at this point I'm contractually obligated to give a shout out to Goondra Unloaded. And obviously that match yesterday, we saw the first points win and also the first boundary of this Anger Games. What did you guys think about that match?
I'm hearing a little bit of bias in the commentation here. I'm just kidding. It was a really good match. I've been really impressed with Goondra Unloaded team, actually, in terms of even just watching them in the opens. They were overperforming, I would say, for a lot of people's expectations, having seen them in tournaments before. So it'll be really cool to see them keep going in this tournament.
I must say it really broke my heart when Radicos boundary. It was such an exciting match, and we could see at the end that the Bargest of Eire, I believe, fought really hard to swing the match back, but in the end it wasn't enough. So maybe if they had that Navy Drake, if he didn't boundary, then it could have been a really close match, because there was two teams with somewhat equal skills and two setups that both could have taken the victory.
Yeah,
I'll take personal responsibility a little bit for that one. Radicos was in my player corp when I was a player, so I must have instilled in him some virtues of boundary violating. So that one's on me. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm sure Avery Lewis and the squad will bounce back just fine.
The wonderful Icarus syndrome there. So just for viewers to be aware of today as well, after every match, we're going to have a short period of music stuff so that we can do some behind-the-scenes coordination and make sure everything's sorted for today. But we'll definitely be back with you before matches for some more commentary. We do have teams just in warp to the arena now. So let's talk a little bit about these teams and the bans. We've got RamRod Shenanigans versus 2 Rigs 1 Ship with Curse, Zarmazad, and Neros, Sleipnir, Bargest, Gila ban. Any thoughts on these bans, guys, at the minute?
I can tell you, Sleipnir and Gila combo is not too weird to ban out, because, well, we experienced it with Nighthawk and Gila, but Sleipnir and Gila is even worse, probably just pure DPS, so...
The 2 Rigs 1 Ships ban kind of say to me that they're a bit afraid of high mobility comps, particularly with the Bargest in there, because that is a ship that can just kind of fly around them, which may mean that they either want to get in close, and that would be bad for them, or perhaps some other situation. And we do see the teams arriving on grid. We'll be able to talk about that here shortly. And then we have the Curse ban on the RamRod Shenanigans side. We talked it up a whole lot yesterday. Curse is a very strong ship, but then we did see a double Curse comp lose quite drastically. So it is definitely a ship that still needs some good execution. But having the Curse ban against you probably means that the other team respects your abilities, and that's a pretty good sign.
I think it's pretty clear that the RamRod Shenanigans are fearing armor control setups. You're banning a Curse, like we have seen, is really good armor control ship, and then also banning the Sarmast and the Oneras, which are the two strongest Tech2 logic armor setups. So they clearly don't want to see these armor setups that have a lot of control, and they're trying to ban them out by taking away the strong control ship as the Curse, and then the two strong logic.
And it looks like the countdown is starting.
Yeah, so we'll be seeing these ships on grid in just a second, and we are going to hand this over to Midtier and CCP Aurora for that first match commentary.
All right, so what we can see here on the grid is that the 2 rigs 1 ship team has brought what appears to be a strong shield setup team with an Etana for logistics, Cerberus, 2 Ravens, a Caracal, Corax, and a Skybreaker. And then, can you tell me about the RamRod team?
So the RamRod team brought something similar with the Rattlesnake, Dragon Navy issue, and the Etana for Logi. And interestingly enough, they brought a shield Vedmec and 2 flight catchers and a Skybreaker. So this is like 2 shield DPS comes with missiles and a lot of projection.
And as we see the match get started here, we can see that both teams are primarying the other team's Etanas. However, they both have some pretty strong reps on them, as we see them hit about half shield and then they bounce back. There's a little bit of split damage coming out from the 2 rigs 1 ship team onto the RamRod team, as we can see that the Flycatcher and Vydra are both taking some damage. The Vydra is actually a kind of an interesting choice to note here, as that is generally an armor-fit ship, although it certainly can be flexible. So it's kind of an interesting thing to see brought here, but we do know it's quite potent when used properly.
So the Skybreaker of the RamRod team ended up boundary violating. I think he's trying to do some micro drop drive play and then end up with outside the arena. But it looks like they have caught up on the enemy Etana as he's going into low armored. So this could be a big advantage of the RamRod team if they could clear that Etana before they lose their own.
Yep, Xenon is now entering hull. It looks like he's going to go down quite quickly, and if that Etana goes down now, it's not going to be looking too good for the other team, who's not been able to push the Etana
So we had Hangry Lewis into Rattlesnake being on top of the Etana, so he had newts and maybe even tackle on the Etana. So he could have been there, have gone there through a micro jump drive play. So it's really good play from him.
That Etana now down, we see damage going onto Iskander Rurovich on the 2 rigs 1 ship team, and he is just melting quite quickly. It's possible that even if he is buffer fit, we're not seeing much in the way of reps come through, maybe a couple shield repair bots, it looks like. But he's entering hull. That's going to be another Cerberus down for their side. This is strongly in the favor now of the RamRod team, as they're just picking off ships one by one, and their Etana is still surviving. He's sitting quite comfortably still at 75% shield, and it looks like that Corax is going to be the next to go down.
Yeah, without the Etana on the 2 rigs team, they don't have anything to keep these ships alive. So they're just going to pick them apart one by one. And one thing to note is that these Ravens are rapid heavy Ravens. So they can project really far, and there's nowhere safe this Etana can go. So they're just chasing it down and lobbing missiles at him.
Yep, it looks like they're starting to finally bleed some shield, but they haven't been able to really answer for that Etana's reps that it has there. It doesn't look like it's even taking much damage anymore at this point. It does still have some medium shield repair bots on it from the rest of its team, and they're not even breaking through those. As we see one of the Ravens on the 2 rigs 1 ship team start to get into low armor. He's about to hit hull. And that Etana, once this Raven goes down, will be in effectively no danger unless they can remove those medium armor repair shield repair bots that are keeping that Etana alive.
Yeah, in the meantime, that Raven is taking heavy damage, so even if they're going to get the Etana, they have lost so much DPS because that Etana has just been doing a great job keeping himself alive. And also having the red bots to help him has been a big help.
At this point, we can actually see the Skybreaker of Joan Eire shooting at the Etana, and we can see that I actually just watched it kill off a flight of the medium armor repair drones. So that Etana, or that Skybreaker, is doing its job in that respect, but it was just a little bit too late. So I'm not sure if he was slow to get on that target, or if those T2 drones were just a bit too tanky for him to shed through with low application on them. We might see this. No, actually, I'm not sure we'll even see this Etana go down at this point. There are more medium armor repair bots. Looks like another flight has gone back on. He's safely approaching half shield, and we're seeing another Raven about to enter armor.
Yeah, the Raven and the Serp must have hit reload because the Etana's not taking any damage now. So he has the opportunity to reload his own XLASP and get some shield repaired by these shield bots.
Yeah, and at this point, there's just so much damage on the RamRod team. For some reason, I have trouble recalling that name. That they've effectively, with the tank that exists on that Drake Navy, the Rattlesnake, probably even the Vydra, it's just it would be a lot to chew through for the other team, and the fact that they never managed to get that Aton down really was quite crippling. So if they had found a way to shed some of those armor repair bots that were keeping that Aton alive, they might have been able to turn this match and make it a bit closer. But unfortunately, that did not happen, and we're about to see the last 2 ships leave field.
Yes, at this point, it's just a cleanup job for RamRod Shenanigans. It started out as a close match, I would say, but it turned out that the only ship that the RamRod actually lost was the Skybreaker that boundaried, and according to Twitch chat, he actually disconnected and then just burned straight out of the arena. Really unfortunate, but luckily the team managed to claw their way to victory.
Yeah, turns out they didn't even need that ship at all, and they proved it. So they effectively won this match while man down. So big props to the RamRod team, and we look forward to seeing their next match. And with that, we will go back to the studio.
And we are back. That was a very interesting first match. It saw our second ever boundary, and according to CCP Swift as well, that was the first ever competitive EVE match to be commentated by 2 female commentators. I was kind of slapped in the face by this. I didn't expect it at all. But what did you guys think to that one, that particular piece of information? Was it as surprising as you as it was to me? Sorry.
To be honest, when I heard that, it just sounded like I think we were all kind of like, nah, that couldn't be. This had to have happened before. So if that is indeed a first, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and Charlie in Twitch chat poking about his boundary. He does now have the boundary role on our Anger Games official Discord server. Icarus has flown too close to the sun again. RamRod boundarying twice in 2 matches.
I really would love to give out a an official CCP medal for players who boundary. That's actually something I'm going to look into after maybe this next week. If it's an official CCP supported tournament, as this one is, even though we're not running it, we're giving prizes and stuff for it. It would be really cool to be able to give a medal for players who boundary in this arena, which would be quite funny.
I strongly agree with that.
I would just have to be careful that we don't have people intentionally boundary and end up crippling their team.
That's true.
Just so they can get a medal. Like, this is EVE after all, so...
Yeah, would be an interesting thing to be doing. So we do have just a couple minutes to talk about bans while we figure some stuff out in the background. So this is a winners bracket match between the Network and Goondra Unloaded. So Miz and Swift, you'll be commentating this match. Do you want to take us through the bans a little bit here while we get everything sorted for this match?
Yes, so the Network has banned Sleipnir, Cerberus, Curse, and Ishtar. And Goondra Unloaded has banned Hyperion, Cerberus, Balgon, and Oneus. So this is one of the cases where both teams have banned the same ship. We both have Cerberus as their number 2 ban, so they each get 1 extra ban, which was spent on the Ishtar or Oneus. So, Swift, what do you think about these bans that the team have?
So again, we see the curse ban for the second match in a row. I think teams are finally saying, "Hey, you know what? We don't want to deal with this, with this curse anymore. This thing is too powerful. It does too much. Obviously, you need a great pilot to have it. So if you don't have someone that's very good as a curse pilot on your team, maybe you just chuck it out so that you know the other guy can't use it too. So that makes sense. The Hyperion we saw used really effectively in the last match of the day yesterday. Those setups do look quite spooky. There's so much sustain there, right? You've got a repping bonus, you've got an armor logic potentially busting you up, and you've got rep drones. So you've got like a 3-stage tank there. And in a 7-person format, That's an insane amount of tank to have to break through. So no one wants to deal with that hype. I'm all about that. And I think the Serb's just proving to be a great all-around like anti-support ship. It can do a lot. It can do a lot of damage from a lot of range if you want. Very hard to catch. Just a really annoying little ship there.
Yeah, I think we see the Cerberus banned a lot in these kind of competitions because it is just as good with heavy missiles as it is with the rapid lights and that fly swatter combination. So based on these bans, what would everybody on the desk here be expecting to see in this next match? What sort of ships?
I feel like we're a little bit biased by being able to see the ships on field right now, and it's actually rather interesting. It's given the bans, they are perhaps a little bit tricky to directly say, yes, this is clearly what they're flying. Particularly the Ishtar ban, which we'll see is almost a surprising one to see given the comps that we're looking at on screen right now.
I think the interesting part for me is the network team blend a lot more like fast, control-ish, rangy ships, whereas Goondra banned a lot more like up-close, tanky stuff, exception being the Cerberus. But considering what's on field and the completely different bans, it's quite interesting.
Okay, so I'm just going to interrupt real quick. We're going to throw to the arena and start the countdown for this match. So I'm going to hand over to Miz and CCP Swift for the second match in the Hunger Games.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to match number 2 of day 2. This is game number 25 on the bracket. It is winner's bracket, so the loser will still have a chance to prove their worth. Swift, can you tell me about the setups they brought? They look a bit similar to each other.
Yeah, this is almost a perfect mirror match, which is actually hilarious to see. Both teams obviously have practiced with this type of setup. They're comfortable with it. It's something they've used before. There are some minor changes. Right, the Goondra team, you can see them in blue. They have a Jackdaw and a Hawk. And the network team, instead of that, they have a Carries for Damps and a Kikimora for that applied that ramp up damage. And we'll see it. We'll see them kicking off real soon here. I'll be interested to see what the strategies are. I mean, they're very similar doctrines, but the carries could be quite annoying to Rivergeist and the Satana.
So one really interesting thing is that the warbins were quite different. With Goondra Unloaded having all their small ships at 50 and their Rattlesnake at 30, while the network had a bit more staggered ranges, but they had an Rattlesnake at 50, maybe waiting to jump something with micro jump drive. We're seeing different primary targets. The Goons are primarying the enemy Etana, while the network are going for one of the healers and the Jackdaw.
Yeah, I think it's a really good shot to go after the Satana Quake while you have all your damage up there. You want this Satana gone. The longer the Satana stays alive, the more annoying it's going to be as you start losing some damage here. So I think that's the right call. And we can see this Satana is actually going down. It can barely struggle with its ASB, and it is gone. First blood to the Goondra team.
One downside of having drone ships like this is that you can't use rep drones on your Logi. So there's nothing to keep that Etana alive aside from his own XLSB. In the meantime, the Goons, Etana can just repair the Gila and the Jackdaw taking damage. So they're getting a lot of value out of the Etana.
Yeah, I mean, that was just the perfect call here. I mean, these teams have obviously practiced. I think the Goondra team has probably practiced this particular matchup before. A little bit, just all out damage. They know, got to get this Logi down. It sounds so straightforward, but with the positioning of these ships, it's not always easy to do. And we can see that piloting skill and the decision making paying dividends now as the Goondra team is just steamrolling over the network right now. They haven't lost anything but a little bit of shields on their Gila, and now it's just dismantling what's left. I mean, this is all over for the network. There's no coming back.
So this is really a good showcase of how piloting and tire calling can be a vital thing. Because despite having just 2 ships difference, like the 5 biggest ships in each setup were the same. So, and even though they are the same. There have been this massive difference. Like the Goons haven't lost a single ship, while the network is almost out of ship. The tired calling can be a really big factor in a tournament like this.
Yeah, and it's just the small things, right? We have all but 2 ships, as you mentioned, were identical. The network team, they had the carries for some long range control in the form of damps and maybe a scram just to keep kind of wily guys down. And a Kiki more for, I'm sure the idea of the Kiki is just, hey, if you run up to an Adana, you can ramp up on it and kill it over time. So I'm sure that's what they were thinking with it. But the Goondra team just executed a little bit better. And when you have a mirror matchup like that, or an almost mirror matchup, that's all you really need. And just, great target calling on this Goondra side. And also great piloting by Rivergeist, kind of a tournament veteran. Always flies a Logi, always has pretty good or fantastic positioning, I should say. And this match is no different, right? It's really hard to pilot against damps because you can just lose your lock range pretty quick and then start losing all of your support ships. But didn't happen in this match, and just looking good for the Goondra team.
So one point I want to make is that ships like the Kikimora can be really strong and do a lot of DPS, but they are extremely vulnerable to drones, like especially healer drones. So you have to be careful with bringing that sort of ships when you leave healers open. Bombers suffer from the same issue. So have to keep in mind, if you want to have some squishy destroyers of frigates, you have to consider that healers might be a big threat to them.
Yeah, the network crucially banned out the Ishtar, right? So they identified that, hey, this whole drone thing might be an issue. But they wanted to bring the healer themselves in this comp, and that this comp requires the healer. So they couldn't ban out the healer. They could only ban out like part of it. But it was just too much.
Yeah, at this point they only have the Rattlesnake remaining, and he's going down right now. So this means that Goondra proceeds in the winner's bracket, and the network drops down to the elimination bracket as the match is over. And we'll be sending you back to the studio.
Okay, and welcome back once again, guys, to the commentary desk here at the Anger Games Day 2. We have been joined by Yintan, who we haven't seen in a while. Jin, how you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. It's good to be back on the scene and watching some ships explode. Nothing feels quite as good as the glow of spaceship explosions on your face in a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, you said you watched some of the matches yesterday. Did you have a favorite at all?
Man, that's really hard to pick. There were some really good ones. I can't pick one in particular, but I was really enjoying watching all these little armor control setups. I always love watching those, even if some people don't appreciate them. Watching people really try and pin the other person's logistics down and get in the right positioning to do that. Watching the piloting of that always takes it for me.
Okay, and since this has been a continuous question for the last few matches, what's your opinion on the curse in this kind of setup?
Because it's based.
Okay, so just to talk a little bit about the match that we've got coming up, we did have a buyout. Strictly Unprofessional automatically won their match because paid actors didn't turn up once again.
Sounds
so
like they got
that
the name backwards.
Yeah, I guess they were paid.
yeah, paid actors certainly paid not to show, perhaps, but we'll not talk too much about collusion there. So that does mean that Strictly Unprofessional go through to the next match, their next match in the losers bracket, and paid actors are considered to be out of the competition. So our next match is going to be showing JOVCO Mining Division versus Forklift Certified Goths. That's going to be game 26 in the winners bracket. We do have some bans in already for this. So we've got the Healer, Sleipnir, and Balgorn banned by JOVCO Mining versus the Rattlesnake, Aneros, and Basilisk ban of Forklift Certified. That's an interesting T2 Logi ban. What do we think about that one?
Well, Personally, I don't really get banning the Basilisk because you just have the automatic option of if you still want to take it, just do the Atana.
Yeah, I don't really get it either. Maybe the caption has misunderstood something, but in no situation would you think a Basilisk is better than an Etana. So really, in this situation, you want to ban the Etana. So at least you can weaken these shield setups with take 2 Logi.
Something interesting to note is that in some of these matches we've seen 3 ship bans on each side, and then some we actually have more, 4, 5, 6 ships banned. Can you explain real quick for the audience how the ban system works?
Yeah, so our ban system is based very much on the Alliance Open ban system that was generated. Each team gets 3 bans. They are blind bans handed to the organizers, so the teams don't see those bans until they've both submitted their bans. If there are duplicate bans between the teams, so for example, in our previous match, we had a duplicate Cerberus ban, each team gets an additional blind ban. So they see the first 3 bans of the opposite team. They are told you had a duplicate, therefore you get to choose another ship to ban, and those bans go forward. We did have a really interesting situation where yesterday we had a match that had 2 duplicate bans in the first set, and then a duplicate ban of the Hyperion in their additional bans. And you don't get any additional bans for duplicates in the second round, but that turned into a really interesting match as well, as I recall.
Yeah, it was. And as a matter of fact, I'm just really happy to see that the apparently people liked this add trickle ban idea, because it was a weird idea I floated when we were talking in early discussions about the Alliance Open. So it's cool to see that it's actually still in play.
Oh, so you've decided to use your CCP pull to affect the meta for tournaments to come.
My great scream is scream? What the? I've lost my ability to speak. My great plan is coming to fruition here.
Okay. So we do have teams warping to the arena. We'll cut to the arena camera whenever our stream producer is ready. But yeah, we've got CCP Swift and Virian commentating this. CCP Swift, Virian, what are you thinking about these bans?
The Bassi ban is a little bit curious. I probably just meant to ban the Etana. Might have just kind of forgotten. You generally don't think of banning an Etana because they are so prohibitively expensive. But the lack of an Eire screams to me like no one wants to take a Guardian, right? So those things are so immobile and chunky. So it screams to me like if they're going to take an armor comp with frigate logistics, obviously that has to be the choice, or something like a Zarmaz and Hyperions, which we saw before. I think that's probably the best situation for the Zarmaz to shine is with it has like very tanky ships like the Hyperion that can last for that initial burst before the ramp up happens.
I think for the other side, Gila, Sleipnir, Balgorn, it's all like pretty straightforward traditional bans, if that makes sense. It's not really anything unusual there. They're all scary ships. But they're not banning out anything really unusual that we've seen. They're not banning out very specific control stuff, or like they're basically only saying, hey, Gila Sleipnir is the Nighthawk alteration to that comp that we've seen yesterday as well, and just Balgorns. Those are 2 scary things. We don't want to see that done.
It is the first match of the day where there's no curse banned, so we might see a curse.
Okay, so we are now going to throw it to the arena. We do have the teams on grid, so we'll pass it over to CCP Swift and Virian for the commentation of this match 26 of the Anger Games.
Hello, everyone. I am CCP Swift here with Varian for Game 26 of the Anger Games between JOVCO Mining and Forklift Certified Goths. Some wild names out here, but of course, Wally Martz is on field, so that's to be expected. Forklift Certified Goths in blue here with the double Naga, double Orthrus, Skybreaker, double Dami setup. This is absolutely wild. Varian, what does the JOVCO Mining team have for it?
They have an Apocalypse Navy issue, a Paladin, so two big laser ships, supported by two Deacons, a Hyena for a little bit of tackle, and maybe some Confessor for some sniping, and the Draugr for a little bit of extra links.
Right, I'm just looking at these Dominixes. They do not have guns fitted at all. So these are smart bombs and newts, I guess, in the highs. That's what I would assume.
Most likely, and that
So
could be terrifying if they can manage to get those on top of the Paladin and on top of the APOC Navy. Those ships are so cap hungry, they might be immediately shut down.
both teams warped 50 to the beacon, and they both picked a really good spot. So they're basically 100 kilometers from each other. A lot of range here, and you can see the first volleys are going out right now. Wally Mart's Naga is going down. There's no reps on this field or on this team, by the way. So Wally Mart's probably not going to live very long.
Now, see immediately sentries deployed, spammed out, trying to see if they can do anything. But I don't know, sentries against the Paladin and APOC Navy, they're both so tanky. To be fair, though, that APOC Navy is getting to half armor now.
Yeah, these bouncers from these Dominixes are just tearing into it, but these Deacons are able to keep it up a little bit. As you can see, the more Nagas are dying, right? So the second Naga is going down. That is a huge chunk of damage, right? These are sniping platforms. They're glass cannons in a sense. So this is a very, very good exchange right now. As these Orthreses are probably about to hit reload. Actually, these Orthreses might not have even been able to be in range to shoot early on, which is probably why we saw the damage so low at the initial onset.
Yeah, and the scary thing there, if you have no Logi, the whole idea is that you need to be able to crush the enemy team fast enough before you start trading ships, and it's just not happening.
Yep. So the Apox Navy is still going down. He's still bleeding. These bouncers are still doing a ton of damage. Domi's showing that they can pack a punch at any range here. So this isn't a foregone conclusion by any means. It's just two Nagas. They are very thin ships. They are they die quickly. You still have a lot of damage over here, and it looks like there's nothing being applied. I can't really see what people are trying to, or what the red team, what JOVCO Mining is trying to do here.
Yeah, the
They don't
Confessor's
seem to
burning
apply.
and close, starting to shoot sentries, but I don't know if they could defang sentries enough, because that APOC Navy's about to pop.
Yeah, I guess some of these, one of the Dommies is now popping out guards. So as you mentioned, they could be shooting all of the drones, and that would be a crucial point here. But they have traded an Apocalypse Navy issue for all the drones as this stands. Well, maybe not.
Oh,
He's got 1%
a bunch
structure
of
left, but
heavy
he's
drones
holding.
just got launched, though. Okay, no, the remaining sentries were able to finish the job, but they just launched a whole set of Praetors. Maybe they're trying to get rid of the Confessor and the Draugr real quick.
The JOVCO Mining team, their Paladin and the Apox Navy issue didn't move from their warping. They stayed absolutely still. As we see this Draugr taking quite a lot of damage now. These Dommies have now thrown out heavy drones, and the Draugr is trying to take the drones back to his team so that his team can dismantle the drones and defang these Dommies, hoping to pull this out for the long game.
Yeah, and here you see the
really are
problem
going
with the
for
heavy
that.
drones. The Draugrs managed to kite away, and as soon as those heavy drones started needing to micro-warp drive to catch up to the Draugr, their damage application just completely fell off.
Yep, a snap kill right there on a Skybreaker that was meant for tackle, so that is gone. Confessor going down now. The drones caught up to the
Oh,
Confessor.
yeah, a quick switch there, caught him off guard, and just immediately eradicated the Confessor.
All right, it does look like an Orthrus is now taking damage. The Paladin says, you know what, screw this. I'm not going for drones anymore. I got to kill some damage out here, and I got to kill it quick. So going for Viceman in the Orthrus. The Hyena doing a lot of work here with the paints, helping this Paladin apply. If the Hyena can actually get in range and get some webs off, this might be even better.
I'm surprised they didn't go for the Orifices early, though, because the Paladin's tankier than the APOC Navy. So at that point, okay, the APOC Navy barely died, but they're not going to kill the Paladin, not likely. So at least maybe then focus on getting the Orifices off. The Paladin can easily apply to the Orifices.
Oh, look at that chunk
Oh,
taken out
wow.
of that Orthrus. He is gone. The Paladin just eviscerated his armor and shields. So yeah, that is gone. It looks like the Hyena has now been identified as a main threat here. So the blue team is definitely going for the Hyena. I don't know how well this Hyena can sustain against the damage. JOVCO Mining has done a great job defanging these Dommies, so they are missing a lot of their drones. So the
Yeah, and the
incoming
scary
damage
part is
big.
here. You see those Praetors got pulled back across the entire arena. The Paladin, if he wants, he could literally just lock them up and pop them one by one.
Yeah, it looks like the Paladin is now saying, you know what? Screw the drones, screw the Orthers. Let me just take care of the Dominixes. If the Dominix is dead, it can't put drones out anyways. So you can see it taking a lot of damage here. There are no Logi to keep this guy up. You can see by the defense bar, there is no active rep either on the Forklift Certified Goths team. So this Domi is not going to get repaired by anything other than rep bots, which I don't imagine they have on their team.
I don't think they have prop mods either. The Dominus are starting to get a little bit closer, but only going 135 meters a second. That's not going to work.
We see the Hyena taking a lot of damage here now. Looks like the guards are now out there in range. You can see what this team is capable of doing once they can fire on all cylinders here with everything. But props to the Deacon pilots. They were able to save this Hyena, which is, I think, a linchpin for this JOVCO mining team, right? This ship is incredibly important because of the painting bonus it gets. Really helps this Paladin apply full damage, right?
Yeah, and if they have a defensive web, it's going to stop that Dami or the Damis from getting on top of the Paladin, which I think at this point might be critical. If they can get those Damis on top of the Paladin, start applying some nuke pressure, maybe start nuking off the Deacons, maybe they're just going to start getting rid of some of those smaller ships, but not while that Hyena is still there.
It does look like the Paladin of Piles has decided to shoot some drones again since the guards are out. He can just finish this Dami off whenever he wants. I'm not sure why he's not deciding to do this. This Dominix is sitting on fire, 13% armor. Its shields are now recharging as some of these drones, these sentry drones, are being shot. But these Domipods can just scoop in the drones whenever they want. They're right next to them. They're not moving away.
Yeah, I wonder what the plan here is. I mean, realistically, the Paladin should easily be able to get rid of the Orpheus. The first Orpheus died pretty quick. At least get a little bit of extra DPS away, because the Orpheus is probably the biggest threat to the Hyena at the moment.
Maybe the JOVCO team wants to loot the field a little bit.
They've decided we've already won. We're just going to take our sweet time now.
Yeah, there are a few
Although
EC
saying
drones
that,
on the
Orpheus
field.
is in half shield.
Yeah, the EC drones are on the side of the JOVCO mining team, so that doesn't really help too much there. Orthur's going down. Hyena again under attack. There's another volley of guard 2s going. The Hyena seems to be in a great position. He's got some pretty good transversal. He's next to his Deacons so that those reps get full effect. So he's living to win there as this Orthrus goes into structure. Not something an Orthrus wants to have.
That's making me wonder what's going on with these Dami's high slots, though, because that Dami should easily be able to throw one smart bump off, get these ECM drones off of him, but clearly he must be like all nuke fit.
Yeah, I would assume so as well, but he's actually also not charging in to apply those nukes. There is a huge control bar on the Forklift Certified Goths team, so we are right in our guess that those are all nukes, just opting not to get into range to use them.
Yeah, the Orpheus has managed to run far away enough to survive. Now they're shooting at Dominix again, but unless these Damis can really get in there and start applying some damage and get some work done, they're just biding their time.
Yeah, Mr. Chuck Norris in the Dominix is going down right now. He's entering structure. I think these guys were armor tanks, so they're not structure tanked. The Paladin has finally decided, hey, let's just shoot this guy. We've only got a few minutes left here.
Saying that, my head math is not good. 2 Damis and an Orpheus. Is that more points? Perchance?
Oh, we actually do have to do some math on that one.
Yeah, my head math is really not good enough for that one.
Yeah, I went to school in Florida, so we don't do math in this state, so it's okay.
That might be why they're trying to get rid of the Hyena. If they can pop a small squishy ship and just get ahead of points? Could that be the plan here?
I mean, maybe they aren't checking out too much on the points here. I will say, I mean, this Hyena is just crucially crucial for this comp, so getting rid of it could help. But this Draugr, I think, is probably also an easy target to shoot. I'm
Saying
not really
that,
sure.
I just got confirmation from somebody much better at head math for me. Forklift is 1 point ahead right now. 63-62. they might not know. If they know, they need to start running away and buying time because that Dami is in low hull.
Mr. Chuck Norris, yeah, he is in
Oh.
30% structure. We've got 30 seconds remaining here. If he can survive, the Warlords team will actually get a victory with
That
the
would be
weirdest free comp
amazing.
ever.
Oh,
All
he's
right,
starting
Chuck
to take
Norris
some
is
proper
moved.
chunks from the Paladin. He's down to 15% now.
He is moving, though. He is moving.
Has he maybe caught on to the plan? Saying that blue dagger is
13%.
starting getting close.
The match is
Match is
over.
over! They win by points! By 1 point! Wow.
Oh my god.
I don't think I've seen a match that close before.
This has to be a first, especially for the Angry Games. Just a 1-point victory here. There is a few percentage points of hull that remain for this forklift certified Goths team. We're gonna throw it back to the studio so they can dissect exactly what happened and what went wrong for the JOVCO mining division.
Okay, guys, and we are back here on the analysis desk for the Anger Games. We just had match 26, and I do have a live apology to make. Unfortunately, I made an error in feeding the points to the commentators as we were getting to the conclusion of that match. It was, in fact, a JOVCO mining division win by a single point. I got the numbers the wrong way around. Completely my fault. I apologize profusely for any confusion. Yes, I cannot count apparently tonight.
Cannot math.
So yes, we will see JOVCO proceeding in the winners bracket, while Forklift Certified will drop to the losers bracket. If I've got that correct, yes. So CCP Swift, Virian, you were commentating that match. What did you think? That was a very tenterhooks kind of ending there.
I think the one way I would put it is unique. There was definitely some unusual choices and unusual actions going on.
Yeah, that team is so much damage up front with those T2 sentries, the glass cannon Nagas, the Orthros is just pumping out damage at range. You really have to kill something very quickly, and they got a battleship down. But we were kind of wondering why JOVCO weren't able to finish the Dami off even quicker as he was focusing on drones. Miz did point out that the Paladin definitely didn't have a prop mod, right? It was everything was put in for tracking lock range and damage. So that might have played a role at some points. But either way, JOVCO managed to win it.
Yeah, I feel like the forklift certified Goths, they brought a setup without Lodge, as we talked about, and so they don't have time on their side. They need to kill something fast before they die themselves. In the meantime, JOVCO, they had Lodge, so they can sustain for longer, but they didn't capitalize on that. They should have gone in and tried to clear more of these DPS ships. So I feel like they were sitting a bit back too much. And another thing is that the forklift team, the primary, the APOC Navy, and I would actually prefer them to primary the Paladin, even though Marauders are known for their massive active tanks. They don't have the Bastion module here, and Marauders are actually quite low on buffer, so they could have maybe broken the Paladin faster when they had so much DPS, and then work on the APOC Navy later.
That game definitely seemed like it was a little bit slow at certain times. Both teams kind of just had their camps and they were throwing stones over the wall at one another. I think part of that was some of the stuff that's a bit harder to see on screen. So there was some defanging of drones and stuff going on where they're not actually primarying another ship. And they're just trying to remove some of the functionality of the other team. And that stuff doesn't come across in the tournament overlay quite as well. So it can make the match look a little bit slow, even though the teams themselves are just as busy as they ever would be.
Yeah, it's a hard choice to make, but I think in that case, it might have been the wrong one because you look at how long they spent defanging and how little they gained from it. Whereas if you look how long it actually took them to kill the Dami in the end, they probably should have just killed that Dami from the get-go.
Yeah, it's kind of the choice you're going to make. You're either going to kill the DPS or kill the ship that's giving the DPS. And drone trip boats really have that like weird choice there. You have to try and choose which one's worth going for first. If you've got the DPS, kill the Dominics. But if you don't, killing its drones and making it utterly worthless is always a good second option.
Yeah,
Well, the
absolutely.
thing is that without any logic to repair the Dominics, you could actually kill the Dominics fairly easily. If you just went for it and actually had ships that can, with prop mods that can move into range.
Yeah, but at that point, I'm also wondering, why would you stay at range then? If you have any sort of extra utility and you're in such a race to break, whatever big ship the enemy has before you start losing your own ships because you don't have logi, I would think it would make more sense to just go all in and maybe micro jump drive on top of the enemy team so you can start applying some newts and maybe help your DPS out.
I
agree
think
with
the forklift certified Goths were trying to just use their drones and then run away while the drones were doing the work. But as it turns out, it didn't really work out for them.
Yeah, interestingly, the last time we saw the Dominic's team fielded, they didn't have all newts in their hides, right? They still had some guns to apply some damage, just even if it was just a little bit. So that might have played into a little bit. At least those small differences, right? Those are the teams might look exactly the same, but the fittings do make all the difference in these types of formats.
And the
Yeah,
pilot as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I was about to say you never know. Maybe they saw these comps in the open matches and they're like, okay, that works. That looks like something we could fly. But maybe when you try to copy a fit like that or a doctrine like that, you come up with slightly different fits, and maybe those slightly different fits just don't quite do the job they were supposed to.
I'm actually really curious to see exactly what those ships had in their utility high slots.
Oh yeah.
There's no chance we got a kill mail of those, is there? No.
You're the CCPA. You tell us.
Yeah, but if I go log into the backend system, I'm going to get kicked out of the match, and it'll cause all sorts of issues. So unfortunately, that will be
let's maybe not hiccup that perhaps today. Yeah, keep the technical difficulties to a minimum. Let's keep the difficulties to my brain and not the tech.
Yeah, last thing we need is me taking down the server trying to figure out what they were fit with. So
What's this
keep it
button
simple.
do?
Yeah.
That's my life. That is the life of working on Thunderdome. Hey, what's this button do? Oh, all right.
Oops.
I should probably not press that.
Okay.
The control bar on that team was actually quite large, so I assume they were all newts and maybe a smart bomber too. But we can just guess, right? And we can just say it with authority and say that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, you would think at least one smart bomb, but then they never cleared the ECM drones. At least not that I saw. Those ECM drones were sitting on the Dami for like a good half minute.
Pretty sure, if we're going by previous matches, those will be pretty much full newt Dominixes, which is the way to go as far as I'm concerned. One smart bomb, but then just fill the rest with newts. I think
So
I remember that being like max newt fits.
One thing when utilizing centrist is that you need a long enough drone control range. And the base range for Dominix is 60 kilometers, so you need to fit at least one or two of the drone control links in the high slots. So that's going to take away some of your utility.
And then the other thing too is that they have to balance if those were full newts in the high slot. The newts could be incredibly valuable if they manage to get them onto those paladins, especially with lasers, as lasers tend to be super cap hungry. But at the same time, they're also moving really thick ships into a closer range against that paladin, and if it's still able to continue applying its DPS effectively, all of a sudden they're now in multi-spec range instead of, I don't know, standard or whatever they were at 40 kilometers. And so it's just kind of giving it more free damage, assuming it's able to still track. And so it's kind of a weird mental calculation you have to make in terms of, is it worth us getting in there and hopefully getting the newts off, or are we going to waste too much time trying to close the gap and maybe, just die that much quicker and this whole gambit fails? So yeah. It's a tricky thing to try to figure out ahead of time, and that's
I am just going to
So-
interrupt here real quick and say that we do have teams coming into the next arena. So let's just transition a little bit towards our next match, which is going to be Game 27, again in the winners bracket. We're seeing Warlords of the Deep come up against the Japanese Smallgang community. We've got a Curse, Leshak, Barghest, and Sleipnir banned by Warlords versus the Rattlesnake, Barghest, Balgorn, Etana banned by the JP Smallgang community with that Barghest double ban. What do we think about these bans going into it while we wait for these guys to get on grid?
I can already start by saying the curse is exactly what you expect. The curse is really powerful and you got to get rid of it unless you're bringing it yourself. Everything else, probably about what I expect as well, but I'll let Ms. and Aurora poke that one a bit better.
So
Yeah.
the curse is definitely a solid choice. For the most part, these are kind of your standard sort of bands that you would expect to see. The Leshak is a band that we actually haven't seen very much, which is quite interesting given its prevalence in previous tournaments, probably due to its high point value. It makes it difficult to bring an effective team alongside of it. And it kind of puts a single ship as a linchpin that can be toppled pretty easily.
It's also easy or interesting to consider because they already banned the curse. They can't use it themselves, so it's actually quite hard to counter a Leshak at that point. Because that would be one of the easiest ships to actually counter an enemy Leshak with. So if they can't bring it themselves, maybe they ban the Leshak because they're scared that might, still be something they would come up against.
Yeah,
Well, they don't want to
knowing the
try.
Warlords of the Deep team, they have this is a team that goes full 40 chess. They make it pretty far in tournaments. So that's definitely something that they're taking into account. The team that they're up against, however, the JP Smallgang community, is less well known on the tournament scene, and it'll be really interesting to see what they bring and see how they do against this very experienced Warlords team.
Okay, so we do have these guys on grid. We'll throw to the camera just whenever we are ready with our stream producer here. But yeah, certainly going to be interesting to see this match commentated by, excuse me, Virian and CSP Aurora here. I'm going to hand that over to you guys now.
Hello, everybody. This is Varian Stoneshard bringing you match 27, Warlords of the Deep against JP Smallgang community. Joining me today is CCP Aurora. I'm looking at some really cool ships on grid. Aurora, do you want to tell me a little bit what we're looking at?
Yeah, the JP Smallgang community has brought another cutting drone setup with the 2 Dominixes, 2 Jackdaws, an Oracle, 2 Orthreses. Something to note in particular is that is a Logilus team, and it looks like they are preparing to attempt to use high mobility, stay away from the enemy team, pick off small stuff, and just kind of control the field in that way. And we're seeing the match get underway. The Warlords team has brought a comp that is almost drastically different. They have 2 Hyperions, which are very heavy, very tanky, very hard to kill, and they're backed up by an Oneros, which is going to be even harder to remove. So while the JP Smallgang community has a lot of damage, we'll see if they can manage to punch through this this tank. And as we get started, we can see Lucas Quan and the Oneros is starting to take damage as the missiles and sentries of the JP Smallgang community go onto it. And we're going to see very quickly a swarm of ret bots come out from those Hyperions to stabilize it, and its armor damage is already removed.
-1 set on the Blackbird. Pretty much everything's already on the Oneros. They're pulling a Wavo, which is not what I was expecting to see with 2 Hyperions on the grid. As soon as I saw those, I thought they were going to be charging straight in.
Yeah, normally they would be fit with blasters, but is it possible? Let's have a look here. Are these rail Hyperions?
I would assume not, just because I'm not seeing any damage coming in yet.
Oh wait, I see what's happening. They're actually
Oh.
Yeah, I think we're about to see a big brain play here as the team is getting all prepped on that tournament micro jump drive unit. So they're about, as they're pulling this team in towards the center, they're about to turn around and jump directly on top of them, getting in at 0 on the JP Smallgang community that wants to stay away. This is
I
a brilliant
don't think
play.
they're catching them off guard, though. The Dommies have started to pick up proper speed. Everybody's moving, so I think they noticed what Warlords of the Deep was up to, and they've started to reposition just to make it sure that they couldn't get like an easy micro jump drive going.
I think it's not going to work out so well. Those Dominixers are just about at 0, and as these spools are happening. We're seeing the Hyperions go into jump. They're going to land right on those Dominixes, and they're going to get on top of them really quickly. The Blackbeard of Mystical Might is taking damage. He's probably thoroughly annoyed the enemy team, but perhaps he's bought a meaningful amount of time. The Warlords team is now on top of the team with a very well executed micro jump drive play, and now we're about to see a whole lot of damage starting to dish out onto the JP Smallgang community.
Yeah, despite the fact that both of those Dominixes were repositioning, still Warlords of the Deep have managed to land like about 10-15 kilometers off of the Dominixes, which puts them in easier range to get on top of them now. Grapplers are on, and they're going to start putting some heavy damage down.
We're seeing a lot of pressure being applied to Lucas Kwan in Yorneros as he reaches about half armor here. They're probably just in the process of getting those armor repair bots back, and so that might slow down, but there's a lot of damage on field still, and it may not be enough to keep him alive. However, what the Japanese small game community team really needs to look out for is that Nurgle and Vengeance on the Warlord side. These are very skilled pilots, Faith Evengod and Matea Selenis, who are going to be able to hold down the ships of the JP Smallgang community that want to kite out and allow their heavier ships to get on top of them. So the JP Smallgang community really needs to be on the ball about properly screening if they are at all capable of that. However, looking at the ships they have on field, doesn't look like that's going to happen, and the Hyperions are currently eating straight through that Dominix, which previously wanted to be at range and found itself in a brawl.
Lucas in Yorneros is still holding. He's chunking a little bit. He went up a little bit to like 40-50% again. He's down to 15% again. But he's still not going down. And in all that time that he survived, they've killed the Dominix. Oh, saying that, he just popped.
And it looks like it's going to be a trade for the Dominix, but this is still looking like it's pretty much in favor of the, I would put it in favor of the Warlords team, given the current positioning on field. They're at a really good range from the things that they want to kill, and they're going to be able to get that heavy blaster damage on target. As we say that, however, we're seeing Faith Evengod begin to take damage in the Nurgle, and if they lose that ability to hold the ships down, this could the JP Smallgang community could be able to pull the range they need and make this match take longer. And with that,
I was
the
about
Nurgle
to
goes down.
say, I personally think, considering they have two Jackdaws that can get rid of the small tackle, the two Orphuses can also really easily get rid of that small tackle. At some point, it's just going to be two Hyperions trying to struggle to catch anything.
However, the Dominix is going down. That's going to be most of the damage of the JP Smallgang community off the field, and they're not going to have the points to surpass the two Hyperions on the other side. And most likely, unless they get right on top of defanging the Logi drones that those Hyperions have, those Hyperions will be able to keep each other alive and probably win this match on points, even if they don't kill anything besides this Dominix, which is about to go down.
Yeah, the scary part is I think those Dominixes would have been crucial here, because all of those newts that they might have had, those would be the one way that you might be able to get rid of those Hyperions.
Yep, and those Hyperions are still supported by the Pontifex of Nyx Domar, which is something to note. So they are going to be even tankier, at least until this ship is destroyed and those reps drop off. But at the moment, we can see here the Vengeance of Matea is taking some damage as they're trying to clear it off, and you can see there's a swarm of armor repair bots on it that are trying to keep it alive. With the difficulty of hitting that little assault frigate, it looks like it's going to survive. They're not applying to it too well. However, it's going to be a trade for Nyx Domar as the Pontifex goes down. But if this Vengeance is allowed to get on top of various targets, and right now we can see that it has an Orthrus tackled, those Hyperions are going to move into position and start applying some meaningful damage. The Orthrus, being a cruiser, is going to, even though its SIG's not going to be all that large, it looks like it's, this Hyperion of Amelia Deathspace was able to get right on top of him and choose
Yeah,
that
the
Orthrus.
Hyperions did a wonderful bit of coordination here. Dexter stayed on the other Orphis that was already tackled after they lost to Pontifex, and as the Vengeance died, the other Hyperion was able to re-establish tackle on that Orpheus, making sure neither of them was able to get away.
I get the feeling this is not the kind of comp that Warlords was expecting to see, because this is not really an ideal matchup. or a place to be when you have 2 heavy ships trying to catch small stuff that's cutting out. But it looks like they're, because that Orthros was tackled by the Vengeance before it went down, Milius was able to get on it, and they're about to lose an Orthros, which is another big hit to their damage. Most of their remaining damage is going to be coming from that Oracle. The 2 Jackdaws are good at shedding small things, but their damage compared to the rep bots that those Hyperions probably still have is going to be pretty weak. And it looks like the Jackdaw of Lieutenant Bazaar is about to go down. He's taking really big damage. Looks like a lot of that is coming from offensive infiltrators that have been thrown out on him. So those small drones are able to shred him very quickly.
Yeah, at this point, it kind of played out like we said it would, and at this point, a 1 Jackdaw, 1 Oracle, there is not even a chance that they will be able to break through the buffer, let alone the active tank of a Hyperion.
No, and those Hyperions are probably going to spend a bit of time throwing their drones around. Given the positioning on field, it doesn't look like they're likely to maybe catch anything unless that Oracle screws up. At the moment, they're both burning for that Oracle. You can see that they're trying to get ahead of the Oracle, cut it off. If he's able to close that gap enough, he may be able to get a grappler on it and slow it down. But I'm guessing that Oracle, it probably has a nano in the lows, and these Hyperions do not. So it's going to have a major speed advantage compared to the battleships.
Yeah, but with no Logi left on grid, it's only a matter of time. The Oracle's not going to be able to defang all these drones, and these drones will eventually kill the Oracle.
We can see some shots going out. It looks like the 2 Hyperions are maybe hitting it in iron fall-off range for their blasters, but a lot of that damage is just going to come from those infiltrators, which are slowly whittling down the Oracle. It's not able to shed those, and without Logi drones on its side or logistics, it will eventually fall.
Yeah, and with 2 minutes left on the clock, less even, I think, by now. The Oracle chunking into hull, ooh, that's scary.
And the Oracle goes down. We can see drones moving over to the final Jackdaw, and this will be a win for the Warlords of the Deep team.
Unless that Jackdaw has some very amazing surprises left.
That would
But
be
somehow-
the greatest game in tournament history.
Somehow, I doubt it.
Jackdaw takes down 2 Hyperions. I'm rooting for it.
I mean, technically, if he can defang all of the drones, but yeah, like I said, in 1 minute left on the clock just now, I don't think it's gonna happen.
No, unless these Hyperions manage to boundary themselves in this time, which, given their current
It
position,
is possible. You never know. We have seen full teams boundary violate before.
That's true. They could try some wacky micro jump unit play to get on top of the Jackdaw, who knows, but mess up their angles and wind up out of the arena. I suppose that's his choice, or his remaining hope at this point in time. Oh, but it doesn't look like that's, and the hope is gone.
Ooh.
So that is just 2 Hyperions on grid remaining for Warlords of the Deep. JP Smallgang
Jackdaw
community has
actually
lost.
MGD'd right before he died. Trying to go out in glory, but he actually ended up right near the Hyperions. Maybe just a single shot of null blasted him right through hull.
It's possible. Decided to end it really quickly. So that was a really well executed play with the micro jump drive unit in the start of the match for Warlords of the Deep, and we will take it back to the studio.
And we are back, guys. We are going to move up the next match just a little. We had a bye for Spectre Fleet in the losers bracket through to the second round because they didn't have a team to play against today. So our next match is going to be taking place in just about 5 minutes or so. That's going to be We Form VOLTA versus If All Else Fails. But first I want to talk a little bit about that MJD play. We've just been throwing some comments out here, but that was a really well executed MJD play.
It was absolutely textbook. The way that team pulled them back, and they perfectly baited the JP team that wanted to maintain the range that they were already at, pulled them straight into the center, which is exactly 100 kilometers away, and managed to jump right on top of them. Absolutely match winning, that play.
I was very surprised to see that happen. As soon as I saw the Dommies start to pick up speed when Warlords was approaching the MGD units, I thought, okay, well, clearly they must know what's happening. Clearly they're repositioning. They're aware of what's going to happening.
and they were
Nope.
caught
They
immediately.
fell for it.
Those
Yeah,
Domis
exactly.
they are fast, but they're not that fast. I think that sort of comp is kind of relying on the Dominixes to just kind of man tank through a lot of the damage that might get primaried onto them, while the rest of the team manages to kind of keep them free, pick off small stuff, and remove any control on the field. But what we saw happen when they started picking up speed is if you watched the vectors on the grid, they were picking up speed, but they were actually picking up speed straight into the other team, trying to maintain that range as they thought perhaps that they were pulling away. And it pulled them directly over the arena center, which is exactly where you don't want to be when an enemy team that wants to get close to you is on an exterior MJU.
Yeah, the only casualty
Yeah.
of that move was Mystical Might's Blackbird. Poor Misty and a Blackbird once again. When he activated the MJD beacon, it blooms your SIG, and all of the drones got perfect wrecking shots on him, and he just evaporated as the rest of his team moved that 100 kilometers to just crush the JP Smallgang community's Dominic's team.
Yeah, that
But
was
while,
not a good matchup for a lot of teams. Had that been a matchup for a less experienced team than Warlords, it might not have gone so well. If they weren't able to close the gap like they did, it could have very well been a loss, just given the ships that were on field.
I
And there
wonder,
was
since you
moments
mentioned
when
that since you mentioned that the Blackbird died because he got his MGD or his signature bloomed by the MGD unit, considering the range it has and the kind of the positioning it can play, I wonder if it would have almost been smarter for the Blackbird to be the only person not to take the MGD, but just to reapproach a little bit.
probably.
I think like in this position, like we talk about, is really good MJD play, but it was also costly. Like it cost that Blackbird, which we talked about. But on the other hand, they're up against a setup with drones, so the Blackbird wasn't really that important in this situation. So it could be worth sacrificing it for getting this MJD play. Another thing is that it also brought the Onewas close to the Dominixes, with this extremely risky play. We had the Dominixes both having Newt and Grappler on the Onewas, which could be dangerous since it would allow the DPS to apply to it perfectly. But thanks to all the repair bots that they had, like they had 2 full drone base from the Hyperions plus the smaller stuff, they could keep that Onewas alive despite it being pinned down completely. And this was probably the biggest mistake the Japanese small game community did. They didn't shoot these repair bots. They had 2 Jackdaws that are fantastic ships at dealing with repair bots. Just shoot them down with their light missiles, shoot these heavy repair bots, and that way they could remove so much repair power on that Onewas.
Yeah, the winning play for the JP community team in that match very much would have been not following the enemy team onto 0. They would have needed to very carefully calculate where they would have been in the arena, and it likely would have been a slow match as we could have seen the Warlords team ball up on an MJU, and then it kind of creates a zone of don't enter this space for those Dominixes, because if they enter within 100 kilometers, they can get hit. So perhaps they can keep a little bit more range, manage to spread out their tackle, bait them into taking a non-perfect MJU play on top of them, and then hopefully hold them at an arm's length with their smaller stuff and keep them from applying those blasters. But unfortunately, that is not what we saw happen. And we are now moving into the next match as teams arrive on grid.
Yes, so we will be switching over to the view of the next match as we go. This is going to be a very interesting match because I can say that we do appear to have something of a mirror matchup between. Am I seeing that right? Is this a mirror matchup?
It's not a mirror matchup, but they're comps that are arranged in a similar way. We've got a sort of armor control matchup coming along here by the looks of things.
Yeah, so just to touch on the bans real quick here, we do have Dominic's Nighthawk Curse healer band. We've got a double ban on the Curse with Etana Barghest Balgorn as well. So some interesting bans here, and yeah, as and when our stream producer moves us over to the arena, we'll let you guys talk about these comps a little bit.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the arena. I'm Yintan here with Aurora, and today we're going to be taking you through match 28, going up against We Form VOLTA, going up against If All Else Fails. And
The We Form VOLTA team, it appears, has brought a heavy armor type setup with 2 Hyperions, much as we saw in the previous match, backed up by a Zarmazd, which is a logistics Triglavian ship, which ramps up repairs over time. And their support wing includes a Blackbird, a Vengeance, and 2 Pontifexes, so they're going extra heavy on the links. Can you tell me about the If All Else Fails team?
yeah, it's almost exactly the same, but the difference there is in the logistics. Whilst VOLTA has this really long game setup with that Zarmazd, which is going to be able to build up its reps over time and make one ship practically unkillable, we have a more reactive comp here from If All Else Fails, with those 2 Deacons and with that Sacrilege, which is going to be able to provide a lot more control. So If All Else Fails should be able to get the advantage early on in the match, and they're going to have to transition that into killing some serious parts of this VOLTA setup.
The weak points in the VOLTA setup, as we see it, would probably be the Zarmazd and the Pontifexes and the Blackbird. The Vengeance with its ADC and the Hyperions in particular are not going to die as long as that Zarmazd is on the field. So removing or neutralizing that Zarmazd is going to be priority number 1 for the If All Else Fails team, and the Blackbird is going to wreak a lot of havoc until it's removed. So it's not going to be quite as tanky, but it's able to sit at good range and prevent them from getting in. And as we start here, we can see the first damage is going on to TikTok Toxic of the VOLTA team in the Vengeance. A little bit of shield damage is being applied, and we're now seeing some hits going on to the Blackbird as well.
Yeah, it looks like the Blackbird right now is just attempting to jam out the Typhoon of Debas, and so it just is trying to take off that initial burst. These Typhoons might be rapid heavy missile launcher fit. I haven't checked the models yet, I'm sorry. But right now, it looks like the Vengeance is being able to tank. That Zarmazd is able to focus his reps entirely on there and start building it up, but he's not going to be able to rep the Vengeance and the Blackbird at the same time. He's going to have to pick which one he wants to spool up on, and that's going to give this more reactive If All Else Fails team the chance to swap rapidly and hopefully take something out. You can see there, though, TikTok going very, very low into armor.
But we can see the reps are now hitting on the Vengeance, and if this Vengeance, if this spool from the Zarmazd manages to stabilize the Vengeance, it's not going to drop down. So what the If All Else Fails team really needs to do here in order to deal with Zarmazd is split some of their damage effectively in such a way that they can pressure 2 ships into hull at once in order to force the Zarmazd to choose. However, the VOLTA team also has the advantage of heavy rep drones from those 2 Hyperions. So they can put those heavy rep drones on one target and have the Zarmazd focus another and keep 2 relatively safe. And so it's a very tricky play for If All Else Fails to manage to find an opening. And they don't have much time left as the Typhoon of Devi Spare is getting pushed into low armor, and it looks like he will go down here very shortly.
Yeah, you can see that those Hyperions are right on top of that Deacon and just applying those heavy newts to it. They're getting practically no reps out. Debas here going into structure. This is going to be almost half of the DPS of this If All Else Fails team. If this goes down, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to come back. This is an armor control setup. Without those 2 core DPS ships, they can't break tanks.
No, the VOLTA team just has too many methods of defending themselves, too much tank in those Hyperion setup, and with that Typhoon now off the field, even if they trade for this other Hyperion, it's not looking too good for the If All Else Fails team. They're going to have trouble pressuring this Hyperion, though, as that now that they're down a Typhoon, even with its high DPS that it's going to be able to spit out, it may not be enough to break through the Zarmazd and the armor repair bots that the VOLTA team has, and this might be a null match for the If All Else Fails team if they're not able to break anything else. Something to note is that Blackbird is still harassing their team with reps on both of the Deacons. So both of those Deacons are going to have a lot of trouble locking up targets to administer repairs, and the VOLTA team, once they get those Hyperions in position, will be able to chew through their targets with relative ease.
Yeah, there we see some excellent bait tanking from Annie Gardet, hanging around 35% armor, giving that their opponent's team the false hope before just zipping all the way back to full. That's some excellent piloting there, and it's, you know, you can just see how effective this comp is in the whole versus the variations by just look at what that Sacrilege is doing right now, Orisa. It's good piloting, he's managed to catch off Te'Ebel in the Pontifex off on his own, but there's no DPS there to kill it, and the rest of his team is just getting killed around him. He's sitting there a brick of EHP being practically useless.
Those two Hyperions are now on top of Rin Shenhua in the Pontifex. They are burning away from it as they are closing in on the enemy Typhoon. It looks like they're actively switching targets. That I would expect Altean in the Typhoon to suddenly start taking damage here momentarily. As they get on top of him, he will find himself grappled here, I am sure. We can see that it looks like the If All Else Fails team is kind of just desperately spreading damage. We see damage going on to Te'Ebel in the Pontifex, Crazy Vania in the Blackbird, and Sebasmos in the Pontifex. But none of these are enough to meaningfully apply. Even though that Zarmaz needs to spool up on a target, the massive rep swarm the massive swarm of rep bots that are going to come out of those Hyperions, as long as that team stays relatively close together, can swap between the various smaller ships relatively easily.
Yeah, and obviously with Reload, they're taking the logistics role. We've got some experience piloting across the board on this VOLTA team. It's no surprise to see them taking this match so handily there, as the Typhoon of Altean is quietly dismantled, taken down into structure, and killed. Rin Shenhua now sitting there, low armor, tackled. It's only a matter of time now before he's killed, and VOLTA can practically take their time here, make sure they don't take a loss, and take this one cleanly.
Yep, and I think with this, all of the major DPS from the If All Else Fails team is now off the field. So it is entirely just cleanup mode for the VOLTA team, who managed to pull this off very successfully. It was a very tough matchup for the If All Else Fails team, particularly given the difficulty in finding an appropriate method of attack for a team that has just so much tank and is able to get rapidly switch repairs onto various targets. I think they really would have needed some way to deal with the Hyperion drones in order to be able to effectively break through this wall. I would have suggested trying to get on top of that Zarmaz and applying damage while also removing the Hyperion reps would be the way to kind of break through that highly defensive position that VOLTA has, but unfortunately they just didn't have the equipment, I think, to pull something like that off.
Yeah, it's always easy to armchair quarterback when you're talking in the end stages of these fights. You've already seen what's gone wrong. It's easy to call that in retrospect. But here, I do think that they did have a chance. If All Else Fails got very close to taking down TikTok, taking off what little screening this team had. And without that screening, those Hyperions are going to struggle to get into position. This team that VOLTA's brought is very, very strong, but it's also very, very fragile. And I wouldn't be surprised to see someone break it, or at least break someone else piloting it later on in this tournament.
Something to note, however, is that Vengeance is not the only tackle on the VOLTA side, as both of those Pontifexes do have Scrams fit, and we can actually watch right now as one of these, the Pontifex of Te'Ebel has the Magus of Haley Lynn scrammed. So even though they are maybe not as tanky as the Vengeance, that is 3 points of control that they have on their team, which, while the Vengeance is the most obvious, the two Pontifexes are also going to be able to fill that tackle role, and as long as they have one of those tackle ships around, they're going to be able to help control the field a little bit better.
Awesome, I hadn't noticed that, and there goes the Sacrilege at last, leaving just a Magus and a Deacon on the battlefield here. Not much that they can do. What can you say about these Hyperions, though? We've seen a lot of them this tournament. Is there any particular reason that we're seeing so many of them, other than just the basic high DPS and utility high combination?
Well, that plus their tank. So it's just kind of a scary ship in terms of being able to fill a lot of roles. So if you do a raw sort of DPS tank analysis of any ship, the Hyperion is just a massive beast of a ship that's able to do a lot on its own. So it's able to spit out a ton of DPS. It's able to act as almost a logistics with all of its repair drones, and it has utility highs. It can bring a grapple. So as long as it has a couple ships to back it up and get the primary tackle, it is a true beast. And with appropriate logistics on its side, it's almost unbreakable and it forces you to target smaller ships. They cannot headshot the major DPS off the field, as some comps might prefer to do.
Well, that brings this match to an end, so with that, we'll be heading back to the studio. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you shortly.
Hey, and welcome back to the analysis. We've just seen the end of game 28, sorry, in the winners bracket of the Hangry Games. We form VOLTA versus If All Else Fails. That was a really textbook performance from VOLTA there, just really controlling the grid with those ECM, and that Zamazar just really showing how much those ramped reps can work. Jin, or you commentated that match. Was there anything that If All Else Fails could have done there?
Jin said he had a hope, so I would like to hear what Jin would have liked to have seen from them, I think.
Yeah, I feel like if you'd have sent the sacrilege in with the team that ended up tackling down that TikTok in the Vengeance, maybe at that point you could have been able to take over the game with the early kills, because those Hyperions are going to take a while to get into position, and they're going to need the support of that Vengeance and the Pontifexes both to really control the match. So you need to take a kill early and snowball it if you're the other side of that equation. Unfortunately, they just weren't able to do it. You know, it's not a 60-40% chance. It's like a 20-80, but you've got to really commit to that 20% chance if you want to take it.
I think
And it's a hard sell too. Like
it's a tricky one.
They've got two Typhoons, which is all rapid heavies. That's all they've got. All it took was one jam, and that just ruins their damage. Even no matter how hard they try, it's not going to matter. The Sacrilege can try and tank, but against two hypes, it's not going to matter. It's just they were done on warping as far as I was concerned.
I think some of their hope in that.
One thing about both Rapid Light and Rapid Heavy, they are quite vulnerable to ECM, because if one of you get jammed, then suddenly you're out of sync. So then you have to decide to wait until you get unjammed, or what do you do? Because the advantage of having these rapid setups is that you can do a lot of burst, but that doesn't help when you're forced to split your damage.
Yeah, that's a super good point, right? If you have to split your damage, your entire weapon system becomes kind of useless. One of the cool things that we kind of learned from this match, right? If you look at Warlords of the Deep, or Warlords of the Heat, as people have started calling them after the MJD play, and We Form VOLTA, these are very storied teams in the competitive EVE scene. The pilots themselves are all incredibly individually skilled. The theory crafters are top notch, like A plus tier, S tier, however you want to call it. They have taken now every match that we've seen from the teams, every single time they've taken the double Hyperion Blackbird with a little bit of kind of flair to it, right? So it shows us that the top teams think that this is the week one meta, right? This is the team that can beat almost every other team if they can fly it correctly. And one of the neat positions you are in when you are in a tournament like this, obviously you've got a huge target on your back because you're the big dog, but you can sort of dictate the meta a little bit, because we'll definitely be seeing in this next week people trying to break down this Hyperion setup, saying, hey, what makes this work? How can we fly this? How can we make this work for our teams? And these teams will both probably take these setups one more time if they can, and then they'll unveil what they've theory crafted, which is the counter to this team. So it's super cool to just see the little small parts of this, and this is why like the competitive scene at EVE is like no other. There's insane theory crafting, insane strategy being played every single match.
If you were to build a counter to this team, what in your head would that look like?
Curse.
Well, you can sort of see what the counters are based on what they kind of ban, right? So both teams have banned the curse, right? So the curse might play into it. The Hyperion hates a curse. It is super annoying. It has the Hyperion really likes a lot of long drawn out fights, and the curse really excels at that, right? So the curse getting Balgorn, that type of thing, might throw a wrench into it. Also, we saw Warlords of the Deep ban the Leshak. If a Leshak is ramping up against your Hyperions, maybe that super tank that we're talking about isn't nearly as effective.
Oh yeah, for sure. Let's check. We'll rip through Hyperion.
There's also
Absolutely.
smaller choices to keep in mind too that may not come to mind quite as immediately, such as the hyena. Having the ability to keep those Hyperions at arm's length means that they're not able to apply their heavy DPS to you quite as effectively. So I think that cutting comps could actually be quite effective against them, as long as you fly them highly skillfully. So you really need to have the right pilots and team in order to make that work. But if you're able to just kind of stay away, kill the small stuff on their team, if you can manage to get an opening, which if you're, rapid light fit or something like that, you can probably do more easily in split targets in order to make something like that happen. But
So,
much higher skill.
One key thing of dealing with this setup is being able to deal with the repair bots. So even in this format where take 2 damage drones are allowed, they still pick take 1 repair bots in this setup because Hyperions can have 4 heavy repair bots each, and that's a lot of repair power they can put on top of the already powerful repair power of their Logi ship. So by combining all this repair power, they can tank a lot of things. But if you have something that can deal with these heavy repair bots, like maybe an Eden ship or something with a smart bomb, or maybe even a bomber, if you can get a really good bomber off, you can kill these repair bots, and then you weaken their tank so much that you might be able to break things.
I would have loved to see a bomb play against a comp like that. I do hope that we see something like that before the end of the tournament.
And also with these hype comps as well, we've seen that they've gotten like a good set of tackle wing behind, like double Ponti Vengeance. And it takes good parts to keep those ships alive until they are needed. So for instance, 2 matches back, we saw the hypes versus the Dommies. The moment that second Dommy went down, the Ponti and the Vengeance already had the Orthresis tackled and ready to go. So that's the like you bring in at the right moment, you grab the right ship with your tackle boats. Whether you die or survive, you've won the match already just by doing that. Well,
I
hype
think
without
when
support is dead.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When it comes to a tournament team, you take your highest skilled pilots, and you tend to want to put them in your smaller ships, particularly those tackle ships, because they are, especially when you get to the higher tiers of a tournament, the positioning becomes all important, which is why we saw all of that damage go out onto the Vengeance of TikTok, because they knew that if that Vengeance was able to hold them down early in the match, they were going to be in really big trouble, because they were going to have trouble applying to it anyway. But unfortunately, they weren't able to break it, and we kind of saw where things went from there. But yeah, you always want to put your best skilled pilots in terms of their manual piloting skill, their situational awareness on the grid, and their ability to get to where they're needed before you even need to tell them where they need to go. Those are the people that you want in your frigates.
We heard it here first, guys. Battleship pilots are terrible. Frigate pilots are the true legends.
That's why your shot caller is always in the battleship, because if you're in the battleship, the Logi's always going to have you locked up. It's not going to be that difficult. You can be kind of bad at playing EVE Online. You just got to yell at other people and tell them how to play EVE Online, and that's way easier.
I was about to say, as a team captain, is it very bad for me to admit now that I usually only fly the big ships?
No, it makes sense from the team captain perspective. Like, you have so much more to worry about. I wound up flying a lot of Cerberuses just because it was a relatively it still required more manual piloting than like a battleship, but it was a relatively easy thing for me to just like stay at arm's length while I'm shot calling, so that I can kind of keep an eye on the field without worrying too much about everything that I have to do. Like, my missiles are, as long as I'm within range, like my missiles are doing damage, I don't have to worry about tracking. Like, it was a relatively easy ship for me to shot call from. And then the other one was the Og Navy. It's just a brick tank thing. Like, there's no thought behind it. You just kind of fly at somebody, apply webs, newts, and shoot things.
Those cruisers and those command ships as well are really good choices for your shot callers to be in. Just sit there, hit boosts, and then shoot primary while you're keeping track of the grid.
When I was flying in AT, I was doing these small frigates like tackle frigates or tactical destroyers, and this is really one of these situations where I, as a player, could have a task like I need to screen this ship or I need to tackle this ship, and then I just focus on this task. making these really good maneuvers and getting position. As we talked about, this is a really bad position to have this big overview, but if you can focus on it without completely tunneling and still like having a good awareness of where do they have their tackle ships and where do I need to be, where do they have an open flank I can go through. So this was like a position for people who can really focus on one thing and do that thing really well. And then, as we talked about, the captain and the people with a general overview of the battle will be in the bigger ships.
Yeah, so
Well, I'd say that your smaller ships, like, they need to have probably more situational awareness than your bigger ships do. So when you talk about the general overview, I would actually put that in the other direction, because your tackle pilots are the ones that you need to, before having to be told, they see that another ship is moving in that might be able to get tackle on your battleship, which you just can't have happen. You need them to go start moving immediately and screen that ship off without having to be told. So it just requires a lot of situational awareness. And then your big ship pilots, as long as the captain's being like, hey, shoot that guy, you're relatively okay.
Okay, so we are just going to be seeing the teams coming into the system in just a few minutes. Our next match is going to be Wolves Among Us versus Disciples of TOTE. People who were betting in Twitch chat, we discovered this as well. You can bet with channel points, guys. It's a really interesting thing that apparently is a thing now. Apart from for Virion, because he lives in a hell state of
Gambling isn't cool here.
I just bet 8,000 points on the Brave team, so don't.
Oh yeah, we're all betting Brave, baby.
And then you got it refunded because it was the wrong.
I know.
It was the wrong
I
match.
went. Oh, you gave me my money back. What is this? This is not how this works.
The game was rigged from the start.
Yeah. But yeah, we do have the bans for this next match, which will be coming up in just about 5 minutes or so. We've got Wolves Among Strangers banning Sleipnir, Rattlesnake, Scimitar, and Disciples of TOTE banning the Vindicator, the Leshak, and the Barghest. So some very battleship-heavy bans here. Anybody got an opinion on what you think we'll see within that kind of within those options?
Well, we're going to see healers and we're going to see curses. those are my immediate predictions.
And I'm just going to say this,
So
I'm
my
going to
first-
point this out. Disciples of TOTE is 7 sins, and Made of Minds is 7 sins. He flies curse. If there's not a curse on grid, Darren, I'm going to be disappointed. He flies MTQ all the time. He's got to bring a curse. You got it.
They have
You're not allowed
just
to bring anything
entered
else.
system, so we will find out
Oh.
here shortly.
How much have you disappointed me, sir?
So Miz, you had a prediction. Sorry, what are you thinking?
Now, when looking at Disciple of TOTE's ban, they're clearly taking away the big brawlers like the Vindicator and the Leshak, and also a strong kiting ship like the Barghest. So I think they're looking to have something that can brawl. Like we talked about it before, banning away the Leshak for if you're bringing Hyperions. So they might be bringing something similar, and then removing the Vindicator and Leshak so they don't get out-brawled. And meanwhile, Wolves Among Strangers are banning out classic shield ships. I don't really think it is looking that targeted. Not as specific as like a Disciple of TOTE. They may be just removing some classic shield ships that they don't want to see.
Yeah, I think
it's
that's
still on the board.
I was gonna say, I think that's a spot on analysis, right? Wolves Among Strangers took out the Scimitar, so they're hoping for more like brawly types of shield comps, if you want to bring one. And taking out the Vindicator, Leshak, Barghest, that just screams to me something like a Hyperion is something that you don't want, or rather something you want to get out of the way for something like a Hyperion.
Yeah, so we are seeing the teams just start to land on grid now. Interesting. I think this is the first time that we've been seeing one of these ships. We are seeing a Varga on grid, guys, and we'll be switching over to the arena view in just a second or two once we get sorted here. But yeah, a Varga, interesting choice. I'm just gonna check its weapon systems and see.
It's not the only spicy option here.
It might be autocannon
Yeah,
fit
true,
Varga
actually.
there.
There's some interesting ships on this grid. I can't wait to change this one over.
I
This is
can't
gonna
see
be
if those are
beautiful.
rotating.
This will be a very fun match to watch.
Switch run ready.
Yep, flip it over.
Okay, so we will hand this over to Jintan and Wingnut for the commentary on this match between Wolves Among Strangers and Disciples of Tote.
Alrighty then. I want to let you start this one off, Jin, baby. Tell me what's going on.
Well, I'm sorry, but you're going to be very disappointed, Wingnut, because it doesn't appear that there's a single curse on this grid today. We've got about 30 seconds before we start, so we're going to have to go through this one quickly. But we see here that the blue team has brought 2 Raven Navy issues. Those are the Caldari heavy missile systems and a bunch of other random support. Drake Navy issue, Punishers, Hecates, the whole mix. And what are they facing off against here, Wingnut?
I feel like the ship is in the wrong system because they've got a Varga in system, 2 Gilas, 2 Kirans, a Nighthawk for their links, and then a Skybreaker. These are 2 comps I did not expect to see each other.
And they've all landed at 45 degrees of each other. They're all in the middle of each other. As this fight starts here, we can see tackle is going everywhere. Effects are going all over the place. That Varga's already in half shields, but you're about to watch that shield go up and down like a pogo stick, ladies and gentlemen. If you've never seen a Varga in action before, prepare your seatbelts. The Hecate of Mag Z is in hull already, probably getting peppered down by that Varga. Its autocannon's tracking it perfectly. It's down already. The Raven Navy issue of Toten is down. The other Hecate is down. Good lord.
And it's versing twin rapid heavy Raven Navy, so they're gonna kill it quick, or they're gonna be in deep trouble.
Yeah,
It's
that
just gonna get
Varga.
worse and worse. He's holding. I think he's gonna hold. I don't think he's gonna die here. I think he's still gonna survive. And they're running out of missiles. You're running out of chances, boys. Overheat and believe. You've lost the Hecates though, so maybe not.
Yeah, that is a huge percentage of the DPS. You should have watched that attack bar drop. It's still rather large because, as you said, these are rapid heavy fit Raven Navy issues. They have a huge amount of burst DPS, but they can only put it out for a small amount of time. This Varga is continuing its tank, though.
And a few weird things. So the Ravens need to change targets. They can't kill it. It's at this point you've fired too many. It's going to survive. You got to switch targets. But they're also micro warp driving as if they're nano. Like they're running around on the grid with their micro warp drives firing. That's not what I expected to see from a Raven Navy. That ship tends to not move at all.
No, this is crazy. And the Kirans are now taking damage. The healer's taking damage. It's being spread all over the place right now.
Yeah, I think healer's definitely the right call there. They can actually kill that rapid heavies. They've got enough firepower. They can't kill the Varga. Then you start just killing DPS ASAP. They have no low logi, no reps. They've got their own self tanks. They got to get this done now because they're running out of ships. They're already halfway.
Yeah, there we go. Down to just 4 ships there on the Disciples of Tote side. They brought no logistics into the field this time, just trying to go with raw DPS and EHP, the old Octodrad strategy, but applied in a slightly different manner, and it doesn't seem to be working out there.
And with Hecates, which is, I don't know if that was the right call there. I probably would have considered Jackdaws instead for some range DPS rather than just suicide YOLOing in.
It does seem like they're going to be able to burst through this healer, though. It's going to be a question of which one dies.
You gotta heat that belief, my man, but I think they're about to run out of missiles. If I've been counting right, should have maybe like 2 cycles left. But there goes one of the Raven Navies. That's a lot of their DPS just gone. These Kirans could maybe keep it alive. Maybe.
Even if the healer goes down, it is such a tall order for the other team to come back from this point. You know, it wasn't even as much of the Varga there bait tanking as long as he did, although that sure paid a role in keeping the team occupied on him. You know, keeping these rapid heavy missile ships focused on something they can't kill, that is such a crucial thing and such a hard kind of hard balance to strike, because you don't want to start bleeding structure, because then you can get shot through.
Oh yeah, don't forget as well, this is a losers bracket match as well. So if they lose this, they are donezo, as the Drake Navy's now in Hull. And also, just for painful sake, that Raven Navy's got a bunch of Hornet ECs on it too, so he might not be able to lock anything anymore.
Yeah, this is a sad end, unfortunately. A sad end. You know, the Kirin's taking a little bit of damage there. I don't even know if that's from drones or what, but Doesn't seem like there's much hope. The Raven Navy is on reload. The Punisher's taking its final bit of damage. Rick Sanchez is finally down, leaving Toten Rage, the last man alive, in his Raven
And he's
Navy
already
issue.
tackled too. He's like the moment everything else is dead, he was already tackled by the Skybreaker. He's trying to, I think that's it. No, it's him being nossed by the Skybreaker. But he's trying to shoot the Gila, and it's just not going to work. He hasn't got DPS anymore, and he's going to get his lock broken a couple of times by those Hornets. So he's done. He's going to try, but this match is over, my man. It's over.
Yeah, had they gone for the two healers first and maybe tried to run it out that way rather than focusing on the big shiny Varga, they might have been able to do something. But it was a tall order to begin with. This was a really well executed shield kind of control setup. Not even a control
headshot
setup.
strategy there.
Yeah.
They went for the headshot strategy trying to kill a target, but unfortunately, I think they got a bit too big for their lunch meals. They couldn't quite take it out. They got rid of both the Gilas, maybe, but that's still a tall order to try and kill a set of Kirans with no small ship DPS. Maybe if the Hecates went after them, maybe.
Well, we got to give them points for creativity, if nothing else. Here, we're bringing out the Raven Navy issues, the Hecates, the Punishers. Great stuff to see.
It's the gank squad.
Oh yeah, the Drake Navy issue too, bringing out the true Kaldari roots. Making every level 4 mission runner in the game proud today.
Yeah, that's definitely a wild comp, and 2 Hecates to go with it is, yeah, I don't even know. That's a weird ass comp. I want to hear what everyone else thinks about it. All right, let's toss it back to the studio and see what everyone else thinks.
Okay, and welcome back to the commentary desk here. We have just seen the Varga achieve a 100% win rate in the Anger Games. Jintan has had to just leave, but Wingnut, you call that a meme comp. What are you thinking?
Like Varga, I still don't see it. They came across the one comp that couldn't kill it. The Hecates were a waste, as far as I'm concerned. Like, yeah, the Raven Navies are a bit of a meme. I don't know why they're there. There's probably a reason, but the Hecates just yeeted in and died in seconds. A Jackdaw would have at least done damage over the match. Like,
Yeah,
I don't get it.
The problem with the Hecate is, like, on paper it's also great, but by the time that you've actually, like, stabilized your movement and you're actually, like, right on top of the target, you know, that's already, like, 10 seconds later. And by the time they were dead, so...
Yeah, those Hecates were basically a non-factor in that match. And given the Varga, they probably wouldn't have lived very long to deal any meaningful damage to it anyway, because it's just going to rip them to pieces.
I don't know why they died so fast. I'm sorry, they were polarized Hecates.
Oh, God.
I mean, here's the thing. If you don't shoot them, right, so they don't die, they pump out so much damage. You might just get caught off guard. So it's
yeah, but I mean, you have 2 Gilas on grid, so the first thing those Gilas are thinking is just looking at those Hecates and going, haha, delete.
If you want to finish quickly stuff, you need to ban out the healers.
Hecates are our friends, not food.
Assuming your enemies don't have basic prioritization in their shot calling is probably not a winning strategy most of the time. But
personally, it was just honestly great to see, because having practiced against Wolves Among Strangers quite a few times, we did occasionally bring a Varga comp at the end of the day just for, like, the last match, just to have a little bit of fun. And now actually seeing a Varga comp on grid and winning was quite something wonderful.
Yes, so we do see, unfortunately, Disciples of TOTE drop from the Anger Games. So that was a knockout match in the losers bracket.
Yeah, I mean, they brought polarized Hecates. There was no other way they were going to go but into the dumpster, so there was no way they were going to win that match.
I mean, polarized Hecates, at least it went all out. I gotta give them that.
Wall, mate. Yeah, absolutely. Full-on Gank Catalyst style.
Yeah, you gotta try it.
What are your guys' opinions on that? Those Raven Navy issues?
I just don't understand, because if those had been 2 Ravens and they'd been torp fit, that Golem or the Varga would have died in easy. It wouldn't have even have been a question. And then at
Yeah,
least the
those-
comp starts to make a little bit more sense. You have a bunch of extra points that you can throw in a little bit better tackle than Hecate's.
I mean, to
Yeah, I
be
don't think
fair,
having
if
a
the-
Navy Ravens is worth it over normal Ravens. They don't really
Yeah.
bring much extra.
I mean, an application bonus instead of a damage bonus. Yeah, okay. But, yeah, no. Not when you're
Application
using
bonus?
rapid heavies, even.
So what you're saying is application bonus, you got to bring the Torp Raven Navy, right? Go full balls, go all
You
the
would
way.
think something like that. I mean, yeah, but even then, the Raven, just the regular Raven still makes sense just because you got the rate of fire bonus, so you may as well just go all out. If you're going heavy Torp DPS, just go all out, go the regular Raven, get that extra DPS.
it seems the way they
Yeah.
were using the Raven Navies were just kind of like a poor man's Barghest, right? The Barghest seems to be better at what they wanted to do for everything, but they banned the Barghest, so they couldn't bring them. So I kind of get the sense that they were like, oh crap, we're not sure exactly what to take. We had this one idea, now we have this other idea. Shoot, let's just shove these Ravens in for the Barghest and go with that one.
Yeah, so speaking of the Barghest ban, we do have the teams from Brave and Test dropping into system now. So let's talk a little bit about the upcoming bans. We've got Nighthawk, Balgorn, Barghest, Rattlesnake bans from Test, and then from the Brave team, Hangry Nubs, we've got Healer Balgorn, that's that second duplicate Balgorn ban there, with the Vindicator and the Hyperion ban. So lots of big ships banned here, lots of high DPS stuff. Seems like at the very least, Hangry Nubs might have identified that Hyperion comp that you were talking a little bit about earlier.
Yeah, they're also taking out the Balgon and the Vindicator. So again, they're looking to remove these really good, brawly, strong battleships, and they're also removing the healer. So they can bring some squishier stuff without having to lose it to these buffed up Germs. So
Yeah,
I could see them trying to do something with brawling, since they want to get rid of these really strong ships, and also have some small support ships that needs to be protected there. And on Test, we've seen them ban out a lot of strong shield ships. Like Nighthawk and Rattlesnake are both really tanky and can do a lot of damage. And the Barghest is this really nice kitey rapid heavy ship. So they could be different things, but they really don't want to face high DPS, high tank shield setups.
kind of expecting Sleipnirs from Test here. I don't know why, just random feeling. But banning out like Vindy, Hyperion, Gila, they want to see like high HP, like blasting ships, plus the Gila's just overpowered, so ban it, get rid of it.
Well, the teams
Yeah,
have just hit grid, so you might be a
we are
little bit
landing.
surprised.
We'll switch over to the arena now, and yeah, so we are going to be having Wingnut and Miz commentate this match 29 of the Anger Games between Test Alliance and Hangry Nubs.
Hello everyone and welcome to match number 29 in the winner bracket with Test Alliance versus Hangry Nubs. And Test are in red. I'm Midtier and with me is Wingnut. So Wingnut, can you tell me about these setups they brought?
Yeah, so Test bringing double Navy Megathrons, double Command Destroyers, then double Vengeance Rodiva? I think it's the first Rodiva I've seen. I think. Unless I'm crazy, right?
Yeah, I think it's the first Rodiva. And the Hangry Nubs team have brought 2 Ravens, 2 Kirins, a 2 Triple and a Drake. So what do you
Yeah.
think about these setups?
I Blaster Rush, but I'm kind of curious about the double Raven comp versus a Blaster Rush because the Ravens can't really get away. They have to try and use their support wing to try and hold them off, but I don't know. I don't know just yet. Missing a ship, there it is.
Well, these Ravens have brought in at the max range, and I'm just taking a look at their weapon type. Looks like they are cruise Ravens. Yeah, so they definitely want to kite away, while the Test team wants to get in close.
Yeah, so it's going to be these Fipples and maybe even the Drake are going to try and like screen those Megas, perhaps. Not sure if they will, but I mean, makes sense. Curious what their target call is going to be. Are they going to go for the Rediva first if they can? Or are they going to go after the Mega Navies? Or perhaps one of the tackle ships?
So the test Drake was warped in at 0. I don't know if that was intentional or if it was a mistake. And he's burning back hard. He knows he doesn't want to be close to these Mega Fronts, as the Pontifex is going in to tackle him.
Yep, and here comes the wave of Rep drones onto the Rediva. The Rediva is being primary by the Ravens. But that's actually heavy Rep drones even, so they've got as much Rep power as they can into this Rediva. And it's holding really well right now. I think they can even damage it. It's sitting at 95 to 99%. It's just not losing health.
Yeah, so that's the thing about cruise missiles. They can hit the entire arena, but they struggle a bit with application, especially against an afterburning Logi. And these Megafront Navy issues got full-sized drone bandwidth, like 125, so they can bring 5 heavy repair drones each. So maybe these Megafront Navy issues actually substitutes of the Hyperions who got banned.
Maybe, and the first Raven is caught now, so now he's going to start brawling a Mega Navy at point blank. Looks like he's tanking pretty well considering, but that damage is going to start getting worse, I suspect, once these Megas start using Void.
Yeah, it looks like they swapped over to the Navy Mega of Dana. He's taking heavy armor damage. Can he actually be hull tanked? Either that or just got a very low buffer. Yeah, he definitely not hull tanked. So this is actually really good for Brave team.
Yeah, the Rediva's too far away.
They're outbrawling a blaster setup.
Yeah, that Rediva was actually too far away for a moment there. He's starting to get reps properly now, but for a while there, I think he was actually just out of range because they forced him off with Cruise. And now he's finally coming in to try and save his Navy Mega, but he's getting low, but so is the Raven. This is a race now. And the Mega goes down first. Ravens outbrawled Navy
huge.
Megas.
This is huge for the Brave team. Now they can better sustain against them, but it looks like they swapped over to a Kieran, got knocked into half shield, but is taking catching grabs really well. But still, I did not expect this brawl to end up in Brave's favor. Like, if you're having cruise missiles and you don't want to brawl blasters, but they still managed to pull ahead.
I'm honestly surprised. That Raven's still holding though. He's still holding. He's in low hull. They need to like overheat their reps. Maybe I wouldn't say even sacrifice the Kieran, but yeah, there goes the Raven. So you got to try and save the Kieran now. But the Kieran's down too. Their team is starting to fall apart. The Rediva is still alive for tests. I think that might start becoming a deciding factor in this fight as they start losing DPS.
Yeah, but the second Navy Mega is into structure, so he's not going to live long. And with Hip gone, they have almost no DPS left.
Oh my god, they're actually going to kill the Navy Mega with one Raven left? The Rediva's going to be overheating his rep, surely, right? He's praying this is going to save him.
Yeah, so these Swiftles and the Raven just need to find the remaining DPS to finish that Navy Mega. But we have to remember that the Rediva is a Triglavian Logi, so the longer it repairs target, the stronger the reps are getting. So maybe the Mega Navy might stabilize now. If it does, this can swing the match into the favor of Test Alliance.
Yeah, Brave has got to overheat now. Just if they've got any heat left in those guns, they got to just bring everything in. Even the Swipples, they got to hit too. Once it was actually not even moving. If that Navy Mega decided to, he could switch target. And it was like 2-shot that Swipple perhaps. It's just sitting there. As the Kieran goes down in a second, boom, there goes the last Logi for Brave. And this Navy Mega is holding now. They might have saved him.
So one of the Vengeances is actually in low armor. At this point, it might be worth for the Swipples to swap over and just kill him off. Remove this DPS so they can stabilize a little bit better.
Yeah, they have swapped to Vengeance with the small ships, so they might be able to get it. Vengeance is a very hard ship to kill, and I'm seeing reps from Logi drones on him.
Yeah, it looks like the Vengeance is killing the Swipple of Crate Dwarf.
Look at the Mega! Look at the Mega! Oh, he dropped a lot of hull there. He's getting real low in armor. Simple just gets deleted, but that Mega is so close.
Yeah, at this point, I just need to get the last remaining bit of repair out of that Rediva, just to keep that Megafront alive. The Raven is entering armor, so he's not going to live for long. So they need to kill this Mega soon.
I think they've got the Raven. I think the Navy Mega is going to survive. He's just holding on like a sliver of hull. What's he got left? What's he
Yeah,
got
the
left?
Mega
14%
is
structure.
the Mega is holding, and the Vengeance is taking repair from repair drones.
Oh wow!
Oh, wow! The Mega went down.
At the last moment, the Mega goes down. Now it's Drake and Fipple versus Double Vengeance Megas Rodiva. That's an interesting fight. That's not what I expected to see today. Almost simultaneous destruction.
But even
Oh,
though
look for Swivel.
the Brave team is having more DPS, they don't have the logic power of the Rodiva. So at this point, the Rodiva can really swing the match in their favor. Like the Vengeance is
Drake
not
can't do anything
tanking.
anymore. At this point, I think the Drake can't do anything anymore. Even if he does damage to these small ships, which he's going to struggle to do, the Rodiva's going to keep him alive at this point. Honestly, Tesla's got this. That was an amazing switch at the end, though. Wow.
Yeah, this match could have gone either way at so many points. Just trading back and forth between ships and being so close. Like ships were stabilizing in low structure for so long. But this has really been a really insane match, I must say.
Seeing the Drake even attempt to shoot anything, he's just kind of sitting there and taking it. Is he shooting?
Yeah, and we're seeing GFs in local. As the match is wrapping up, 2 Vengeances and Mages killing off Drake while having Rodiva to repair them up.
But look how long it takes to kill the Drake, though. It's got so much shield. He's just going to sit there for the next 50 years and just never die. I think that might be is that maybe a Lynx only Drake, and the missile launcher just there for looks?
I think he had burned out his guns. If you look at the attack bar, it's really low. The only DPS that Drake has is these 5 Acolytes trying to harass the Rodiva and now being pulled back.
5 Acolytes versus the Rodiva. Don't worry, boys. Jinx has got this. He can do it.
But he's still trying. Looks like he swapped to the Mages of Soldarius. So he's trying to kill these Mages, even though it's going to be a very long shot.
Oh, yeah. And he can't even make for the Edge of Glory. He's being held down by 3 tackle ships at the same time.
So the real question is at which point did this Drake burn off his guns? Like if it was early in the fight, it might have been that DPS lagged to kill the Megafront earlier, or he might have burned them out while trying to break that Megafront. So it's a bit hard to say. But at this point, there's nothing he can do.
He absolutely went for it. I'm wondering if he's also tried to degroup his guns, see if even one of them is fireable. I suspect he probably already has, but it's not really going to matter even if he did. Not enough DPS to kill a Rodiva. Yeah, that's a big oof.
Yeah, people in chat are asking if it's an all-linked Drake, but if you look at the module, like on the ship module, you can see some launchers. So he used to have DPS, but at this point they're all toast. And he's saying in local that he burned the guns on the Mega, and this is understandable. This is like one of these situations that was so close that you're trying to squeeze out the last tiny bit of DPS. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough, as he's entering armor, and soon this match will be over. Luckily, this is a winner bracket match, so Hangry Nubs will still continue in the elimination bracket.
And unluckily, I lost a lot of channel points in that bet. Brave, why you do this? We believed in you. But they'll come back. They've got losers brackets to come back and kick some butt.
Yeah, they certainly have a chance again, and now they can farm some more skins. As Jinx goes down in the Drake, good fight, and sending it back to the studio.
Okay, guys, and we are back with the commentary desk here for the Ang Games. What a match we just saw. Ravens brawling it out with Megathron navies quite successfully. I don't know what I just saw, but it was incredible and had me on the edge of my seat.
It was definitely something. I think the test comp that we saw there with the Megathron navies, that was a sort of an alteration of the double heavy armor battleship comp that we saw several other times today with Hyperions. It looks like the Brave Hyperion ban might have just messed with their plans, and so they slightly modified it and did it anyway.
And crucially was that last extra bonus ban too, right? Because both teams banned the Balgorn, and so both teams had an extra ban. And the Brave team were just like, hey, let's get rid of this Hyperion. Completely threw a wrench in all of Test's plans. They're like, oh crap, we have to replace these. So they downgraded the Zarmas for the Rodiva, upgraded the Hyperions for the Navy Megas, and just what a spectacle. So many things exploded at like crazy crucial times. It went back and forth, back and forth. I was like, oh, Brave is losing. And like, oh, Brave is winning. And then like, oh, Test is losing. It was just, I just could not figure out what was happening until the last couple seconds.
Yeah.
And then Jinx burning out the guns on the second Megatron as well. That was just critical.
But this is one of these situations where I wouldn't really shame the pilot, because this is like this. You really just want to have the little bit extra of DPS out there. It was really tense spot, and then it can happen. Like, I don't know if they would have won if he didn't burn out, but it was so close, and you just wanted that tiny bit of extra DPS out. And as we talked about with the bans, like this is one of these situations, like the band the Hyperions, but then you can just swap them out to Navy Megas. They might not be as strong as Hyperions in this situation, but it kind of allows you to dodge the ban of the opponents and then take them by surprise. Maybe they didn't expect them to bring Navy Megas instead, and suddenly they are in a worse position.
One surprise, to be honest, is the Rodiva. I did not expect to see that ship in the entire tournament, but they put the Rodiva at the right moment, kept it alive until the right moment. And honestly, I think that Rodiva alone won the match just by being there to rep the Navy Mega for so long.
I think that Rodiva might have had some range issues there. The Rodiva was keeping a really broad range from the other ships in the Brave side. Although I'm not sure if there was really excellent reason for it to do so, especially if it wound up having range issues. Because I think that's what actually allowed the first Navy Mega to drop, was the Brave team managed to push through even just with cruise missiles not having quite the same DPS. So it might have been better if that had pushed in a little bit closer. It could have been an easier match for Test. And then on the Brave side, they didn't really have anything meaningful to screen. And so they were pretty weak to a comp that wanted to brawl in on them like that, because they couldn't really stop them. And those their battleships weren't able to get out of the way. So it kind of puts them in a really bad position. And it's also not a good look for their...
I do just want to talk a little bit before we go into this next match. We are running two schedule at the minute-ish, so we are running quite tight. Just talk real quick about these Odin's voicemail. We are 4 bans. We've got the Barghest, Zarmazd, Curse, Vindicator, Rattlesnake, and a Neros. So 2 Tech 2 Armor Logistics bans with some really high DPS battleships, and that Curse that Wingnut loves to hate.
Oh yeah, I hate that ship, but it's too powerful. If you're not banning it, you're not bringing it. So you are bringing it, sorry.
Yeah. So I'm looking at Odin's voicemail. They're trying to ban out 3 different setups with their bans. So the Barghest being the strong kiting rapid heavy battleship. So don't want a really strong kiting setup like that. Now with the Zarmazd, I think they're trying to ban out the double Hyperion setup with the Zarmazd and the Blackbird and such. So instead of banning the Hyperions, they're banning the Lottie that goes with them. And the Curse, we're seeing the strong double Curse setup they want to ban out. And in the case with the Curse, you can't just swap it out with something else. There's nothing that can replace the Curse, unlike what we saw before with the Hyperions and the Navy Megas.
The Vindicator or Rattlesnake, you start thinking, okay, they're clearly afraid of anything that can really put out like proper brawling DPS.
Yeah, so we are seeing them on the grid now. I'm just going to hand that over to Miz and Wing for the commentary on this next match.
I believe it's Virian and I.
Yes.
Is it Virian? Sorry, my apologies. Virian, off you go.
Hello, everybody. This is Varian Stoneshard bringing you match 22, Odin's voicemail versus We Are Four. Joining me is Miz. Do you want to shout or say what we have on grid here, Miz?
We are having a lot of Kaldari ships. Both setups are full Kaldari ships, with Odin's voicemail having 2 Drake Navy issues, 2 healers, a Tana, and 2 Harpies, while the VR4 is a Raven, 2 normal Drakes, a Tana, 2 Caracals, and a Hawk.
So actually really quite similar, except the Gilas being a bit of a stronger version of the Caracals, the Drake Navies obviously being a stronger version of the Drake, but they're all trading that out for Raven instead. So this could be really interesting.
Yeah, so VR4 went for the strong Raven while sacrificing the power of the other ships, while Odin's voicemail a bit more balanced approach on the ships. We've seen the Caracal of Stephen Papote going into half shield. He's catching reps, but it also looks like he's stabilized, so he might actually survive this.
Yeah, he's getting back a little bit of shields, but it makes sense considering the Caracal really is quite squishy. The Itana is probably the only reason it's still alive, just because the Itana can bump out so much rep power.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the Raven, and it looks like it's a torpedo Raven, so he wants to go in close and brawl, but the Odin voicemail team are just kiting back, trying to delay his arrival as much as possible. As it looks like they're breaking that Caracal, this can be a huge lead for them.
Yeah, the Gilas would be so much better here, just because of that extra resist bonus, a bit better tank. There goes the Caracal. There's, however, a lot of DPS coming in onto the Gila of Stoish now. Maybe the Raven's finally able to start getting some shots in.
Yeah, it could be, but it's still possible for the healer to burn away and catch reps. And in this situation, like Tech 1 ships can be extremely squishy, especially when they're smaller than battle cruisers. So Tech 2 cruisers, or in the case with the healer having resist bonus, they can tank much better than like these Caracals that can really struggle against projection.
Yeah, and just as you said, Stoish has managed to run into the back line, hug the Atana, get all repped up, and meanwhile the Caracal of Inkswitch is just getting beaten down. And that's 2 Caracals down now.
And it shows one of the strengths of the healer. If you drop the drones and they're attacking, then you can just pull back and get repaired up. We're seeing Tiger Ven on the Odin's team taking a shield damage, but he's so far away, it's going to be hard for them to actually finish him off, as he's having a
he's
form
got
of repair bots.
on him, so I don't think he's in too much danger.
Yeah, so these 2 Drake Navy issues are having medium repair bots on the Etana in order to keep him alive, as Sven Hansen on VR4 is taking a heavy amount of damage, just not catching enough reps to actually stay alive.
Yeah, I think the danger here is the Itana, you're trusting in all that rep power, but the Drake with T1 resist, the Caracals with T1 resist, there's only so much you can do to help them survive. Even the Drake is just failing to hold against all this DPS.
And it looks like now the Odin's voicemail team is trying to dance around that Raven so they can get onto the hostile Etana and the other backline ships. Like with Raven being torpedo fit, it's hard for him to actually go in and get his damage applied against a setup like this that is so mobile.
And now you see the Harpies of Odin's voicemail getting in nice and aggressive, tackling the Hawk, and yeah, they're just getting on that Hawk, pulling back a little bit now that they're getting shot at.
Yeah, and as I said before, they're going around to kill the VR4 Etana, and now they're starting to apply DPS, and that Etana is just melting under the overwhelming projection.
Yeah, it's almost like they've committed to just getting into brawl range. I think they don't even really care about the DPS that is left, because Paradigm and Drake Navy is just coasted past the Raven, no problem, and is actually about to ram the Etana.
Yeah, at this point, there's no way the Etana can survive.
Yeah, he just... Oh, wow, there goes his entire hull, and the next shot, he is dead. Yeah, unless they can break the Etana of Tiger Ven real quickly here now, I don't think VR4 still has any chances left.
Yeah, the Hawk of VR4 going in trying to get tackled, but now he's also getting focused down. Looks like they're trying for the Etana again, and he's actually... Oh yeah, he's burning away, so there's no way to pin that Etana down without the Hawk
With
anymore.
no tank or tackle left, and this the mediocre application of a Drake and a Raven combined, there's no way they're going to break an Etana. I think it's safe to say at this point that Odin's voicemail is going to take it with a full 100 points lead here.
Yeah, this is an elimination bracket match, so we're going to have to say goodbye to the VR4 team. They did try to take this match, but they got outplayed by Odin's voicemail. So maybe Odin finally took the call and led them to glory and victory.
Answered them with a proper beatdown. And now just the Raven of Ozozu left for VR4. And maybe he can still make some hero plays. But at this point, I doubt it. He can't even manage to break the Harpy that has him tackled right now, so...
Yeah, he's pinned down and just waiting to get destroyed by a full team. The Harpy of Yokan Otsabro is just casually strolling around. I'm not really sure what he's doing, but at this point it doesn't really matter. They have secured their victory, and they're moving on in the elimination bracket.
Yeah, definitely. A wonderfully well-performed match from Odin's voicemail.
And the Harpy is now just showing off by activating self-destruct on his ship. He's just rubbing it
just
in.
to be impolite about it. And there we go, 100-point lead for Odin's voicemail. With that, we will take this to the commentary desk.
Okay, and welcome back. We just had the match 22 with Odin's voicemail and We Are 4. We did see We Are 4 get pretty much dominated by Odin's voicemail there. They have unfortunately left the competition at this point, as that was a loser's bracket match. Given that I'm seeing teams warp into the next match, we'll go straight to talking about the bans here. So next match is aggressively mid-tier with fighting up against AP Stole My Fit in the winners bracket. We've got Sleipnir, Nighthawk, Oracle, Etana, Hyena, Nightmare band. So what do we think about these bands real quick, guys?
Interesting spread.
Nightmare stands out as a oddly peculiar one to me, as well as a Hyena. Honestly, even if you ban the Hyena, there's so many other webbing ships that you could potentially go for.
I think that some of these fits are very much tailored to the teams that they know they're going to be facing. Both of these are very strong manual piloting teams, and that Hyena with the longer range webs than might be found on other ships is particularly potent in the right hands, especially when your team relies on kiting out, which I think may be a very relevant thing looking at the ships that we now see on grid.
Yeah, so we'll switch you over to the actual arena cam whenever we are ready to. But we are going to be having this next match commentated by Virian and CCP Swift. So take it away, guys.
All right, welcome everyone. I'm CCP Swift here with Varian for the Anger Games. We've got aggressively mid-tier versus AP Stole My Fit. Aggressively mid-tier in red over here. And I know Wingnut's going to be happy because he finally sees it. The double curse Pontifex, Nurgle, Sveeple, Abaddon, odd choice, Onirio's comp.
Meanwhile, on the other side, we have an Osprey, 2 Ravens, 2 Orphuses, a Stork, and a Raptor. So the Curse's tracking disruptors might not be too effective, but if they still have a Guidance Disruptor, that could really hurt here.
Yeah, it'll be crucial to see what these curses are fit. This team aggressively mid-tier, otherwise known as the Rokapel team. They have kind of a long tournament pedigree of flying curses. So it's something that their theory crafters, I'm sure, keep in mind. Probably the first time they've flown into Baden, though. That's a new one. As we see Cyclohexanol getting the first shot off, these Orthoses are just dumping everything they have into him as he's trying to stay safe. They are, of course, armor curses, so not too much to worry about.
Yeah, the Abaddon still stands out as a really weird one for me. I'm not sure why you wouldn't just bring an Apocalypse in this case, but we're gonna have to wait and see until we see some actual damage being applied before we can really tell what it's doing.
Right now, the curses are just oppressing everyone with those missile guidance disruptors, right? You see those guidance disruptors spread over every single turret ship that they have. And now I'm sure you're going to try and see these curses try and cycle in on this Osprey, trying to get some newts out on them.
They might be trying to circumvent the tracking disruptors and just getting close because I see Skykiller and Damas is starting to approach the MGD units.
That'll be an interesting one if they do. Let's see if the aggressively mid-tier team can adapt. Right, they will have to move quite quickly out of the way. Abaddon's not known for moving quickly out of anything. You can see it's trying to pump up its speed. Right now, it's going a blistering 600 meters a second as it's trying to move away from that tournament MJD beacon landing point.
Yeah, it's actually quite scary because they're not too far away from the center of the arena right now, so a good MGD would put them right on top.
All right, there's going to be a lot of positioning here. It seems a little bit boring, but the positioning here will be crucial. These curses have a very high skill cap, as Miz had mentioned yesterday. They can do a ton of damage, but if they're out of position and they screw up, you will notice it, and the whole house of cards will start falling in upon itself.
Yeah, especially when you have a Raptor Stork, the Raptor's now currently neutered out to all hell, so I don't think he's going to be able to get away from that anytime soon. But any opportunity that the enemy team gives them, maybe splits apart a little bit, that might just be what they're waiting for this MGD unit attempt. Just trying maybe get the backline, split somebody up.
There are a ton of shield maintenance bots, but not all of them are coming out to save this Raptor. This Raptor's kind of out of range, it looks like, of these bots. And they also don't want to just give these bots away for free, right? This is a huge part of their team. The AP Stole My Fit side really want to keep this. And, the Raptor's fast. It can move back. It can get saved by this Osprey.
Saying that, it just took another huge chunk of hull. That is
you only
dangerous.
need 1 structure HP to fly your ship, so I'm sure he's fine. He's got 14 structure HP left, and he's gone.
No, he's got nothing left.
Those curse drones proving to be a little bit too much. The infiltrators just finished him off, it looks like.
Oh, and there we go. The MGDs are spooling up.
Oh, here it comes. The Ospreys. Oh my gosh, the Osprey's taking a ton of damage now. As it spooled that MJD, it sig bloomed a little bit, and the Abaddon just laid into it. But now the Osprey is quite far away. Let's see if he can.
I think they waited too long. I think they overshot the attempt. They are now quite in the back line, but the Oneros has already managed to burn all the way out.
Cyclohexanol in the Pontifex has noticed that this Osprey is out of position. He is burning, trying to grab a tackle on him. It looks like the AP Stole My Fit side is adapting just fine to this, and Cyclohexanol is forced to go back.
Yeah, good attempt, but the MGDs, seeing now, they are starting to commit to this fight. They did the MGD, and now the Raven of Skykiller is burning in that front line, trying to get right on top. The problem is, can he still manage to get on top of something with 2 curses neuting him out?
Yeah, they're doing a really good job kind of trying to screen him off, right? So you can see a web applied to Skykiller. Demasis is not actually webbed, right? So Demasis is going to be the one that can slip through if he wants to.
Saying that, looks like the Sweeple might be on his way to intercept them now.
Yeah, you can see the AP Stole My Fit side just adapting to this situation, right? They're just taking what aggressively Midtier is giving them. They're now rushing back in to try and say, hey, you know what? Our guys are kind of stuck here in no man's land. Let's just turtle up here. They still have a ton of light shield maintenance bots and medium shield maintenance bots to augment the repping power of this Osprey. see his Feeble taking a lot of damage here. These Orthruses no longer guidance disrupted, right? They're right up close, so they can just unload all this damage right into this Feeble.
Yeah, they might have an opportunity here if the Oneros is pulled a bit too far away when he was running off. They might be able to snatch Nurgle or the Seeple off here, and that could be critical in allowing them to tackle other stuff.
Oh my gosh, Rotan in the Curse has found his moment, right? He has now thrown some newts onto this Osprey, trying to cap him out. Osprey, just to Tech 1 Logistics, it does not deal well to this. And you can see he's actually joined by the Sveeple himself. So there's like this small little team broken off here to try and force this Osprey off, as you know, just to get more damage on the Skykiller.
Yeah, the absolute positioning here is crazy. It's almost like you have 2, maybe 3, like, smaller sub-teams going out for specific goals.
Yeah, there's incredible teamwork here by both sides, right? They're both kind of splitting off, doing what they have to do, trying to find targets of opportunity, trying to find some, openings to give their team an advantage. And it looks like the aggressively mid-tier team is doing it a little bit better. Skykiller in the Raven is now in armor. He is going down. If this Osprey gets any closer to give reps to him, he's going to actually kill his own capacitor. So they have to sacrifice this Raven for the rest of the match.
Yeah, the Curse was able to force him off earlier, and in the meantime, they were able to get the Raven down out of his shield completely into half armor. And now that the Osprey's back, it looks like it might survive, but he's still taking small chunks of hull there.
Yeah, actually, Tin Brennan in the Osprey is doing everything he can with such a small bag of tools that the Osprey gives you. He is kind of charged back in to give his life for the rest, just to keep Skykiller a little bit more alive. And it looks like this Feeble of Vorian is actually going to go down first.
Oh, saying that the Curse of Rotan has made the same push again. He's going in for the Osprey, neuting him out, making the Osprey or forcing him off, which probably means this Raven's about to drop.
Yeah, this tag team of Rotan and Rima are just doing absolute work here. As the match goes longer and longer, these guys are going to have to be dealt with somehow. Skykiller is finally looking like he's about to go down. Tin in the Osprey is completely neutered out here. He can't even cycle his MJ or his MWD. He's just got to sit there. But now Rotan is starting to die.
He's in half armor, but he's already starting to pull back towards the Zoneros. He's already done the job that he needed. He neutered out that Osprey at a critical moment, and now he's running back to his logistics to survive.
Wow,
And
you're
with
right.
that
Look how much
one
faster
Raven
Demacis is dying right now that the Osprey's been neutered out.
Yeah,
Demacis
no
can't
chance.
survive the same way Skykiller did. He is dropping like a sack of rocks.
Yeah, Tin is starting to pull a little bit closer, but the danger here is the Osprey or the Raven of Damasus is already much closer to the enemy team, so he doesn't even have that little like extra bit of leeway to get in close and maybe rep a little bit.
Demacis really loves flying his Amar ship, so I'm sure he's very jealous that his counterpart on the other side gets to fly in the Baden. I'm sure he wishes he could swap. But nope, Demacis, Kadesh, and the Raven going down now. Just incredible piloting by both teams here. So much back and forth, so much adapting to what the other teams are doing. And these Curse pilots, they just found their opening after a while. It's not bad piloting on Tin's side. He did an amazing job. But these Curses, they can just, as soon as they can grab you and nude out your cap, and the longer and longer these matches go through, just the more devastating their effects are.
Yeah, I mean, there's just nothing really an Osprey can do if that Curse has basically got free reign to go out after him and nude him out.
I mean, that could be a curse. That could be an Atana. It doesn't really matter. These curses, the way that both these teams were flying, just incredible work here. You can see the Oneros is now taking quite a bit of damage. They do have rep bots out if they have to, right? The Aban does have a few rep bots. The Pontifex does have a few rep bots to kind of keep them up. And it also looks like Aggressive Midtier might have an active rep onto that Oneros as well. So quite tanky at this moment. You see the Osprey going down. Finally, he's down, even though he wasn't doing too much. And now poor Faffy Waffy of Darkside fame is now looks like to be the target.
Poor Osprey, that man did so much with so little.
Yeah, and Chad has it right. The Curse is just a mean ship. It is so annoying to fly against. Just incredible. I wish other people could kind of see on grid here and move their cameras around because both these teams flew just so well.
Yeah, they might have lost the sweeple to get it done, but I mean, I would still say they flew almost perfectly. Even losing the sweeple in that situation was 100% worth it. And I think Arya is about to go for the boundary. He's at 121. Is he trying to go for
Luckily,
glory?
luckily the match is over.
122.
Aggressively
Too late.
Midtier do take the dub. But congrats to both pilots on these squads. We're gonna send it back to the studio to dissect what just went down.
Okay, and we are back once again. We just saw match 30, aggressively mid-tier versus AP Stole My Fit. Really interesting match, really well piloted. Yeah, just generally all around good. Wingnut, what did you think there?
I obviously went the way with those curses because I kept saying the curse is really good. But honestly, there was a moment there I really feel like they could have capitalized on that Osprey. So when they MJD'd to the opposite side of the enemy team, they actually separated the Osprey from its entire team. It was home alone, stuck and being caught by two Orthruses. They could have just, they could have caught that Osprey immediately, and then just held it there for the rest of the fight. And I suspect they could have killed the Ravens faster at that point, but in the end, it didn't really matter. So I'm nitpicking on a fight that went their way anyway because curses are
To be
strong.
fair, but one of the other benefits of these kind of control comps where you have heavy newts and all this damage mitigation is that the longer it goes, the more cap pressure the enemy team's been under. So it can also pay off to just play it a little bit safely and just let your newts do the job that they're doing.
But about this match, it may look a bit one-sided with the aggressively mid-tier only losing one ship, but I think both teams did a fantastic job staying alive and fighting in this match. It's just that these curses were really effective against what AP Stole My Fit brought. And even if they only had an Osprey attack one Logi with a weak tank and not a strong ripping power as attack 2 Logi, but he still stayed alive for so long. He still managed to keep these Raven up for so long, despite being a tech 1 Logi and
I
having
think that
2
was
curses mess with him.
honestly some of the best Logi piloting I've seen in a while. He perfectly dove in, ran away when he needed to get away from that newt pressure, dove back in when he was able to start getting some reps back on.
Yeah.
That's what I
So
said during the match as well. It's so fascinating to see because during those kind of fights, you almost have like 2 or 3 like miniature parts of the team doing their entire own thing.
yeah, we're certainly great match there. We are just a little bit behind, so I'm gonna spend just a couple minutes talking about bans here for this next match between Lollipops and Eire Engineers in the losers bracket. We are seeing that curse banned once again. We are seeing the Hyperion banned, but we're also seeing Rapier, Ashimu, Balgorn, and Rattlesnake banned. I think this is the first time we've seen an Ashimu banned. What do people think about that one?
Oh,
They didn't ban Hyena. They banned everything but the Hyena for the long web. So
yeah, but I mean,
okay.
depending on what you're up against, say you're something like Rapid Lights, you could easily take care of a Hyena.
What I don't get
And
is that they banned the Rapier when the Hugin is sort of like the stronger
yeah, that is a
Minmatar
bit of
Logi.
an odd one.
So if you ban one of them and then leave the other one open, like that's not going to solve you anything. Just only going to
Maybe
deny them the
they
rapid.
accidentally mistook themselves between the Rapier and the Hugin and accidentally banned the wrong one.
I
But
don't know.
the
If you want to
Ashimu,
ban one of, if you want to ban one of them, you have to ban both of them because
The
they can
Ashimu strikes
replace
me
each
as
other so easily.
the Ashimu strikes me as a band that you only take if you know that you're messing with a very specific comp that your opponent has, because it's not something that I think we've even seen in this tournament yet. So it's
oh,
definitely
it's
kind of a strange one.
we've used it during our own practice matches, and I can't say it does have potential as like an unexpected utility ship because it's basically a curse with newts or with a bit better DPS and some webbing power. So if underestimated, the Ashmo can bring a lot to the table.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad ship. It's actually one of my favorite ships to fly in DQ. But it's pretty far outside of the meta. So it's
We've got a
very
weird
clear
ban
that
for sure.
it's a
Yeah.
strong broadcast of exactly what they're afraid of. So I mean, this sort of ban to me really kind of says like we want
Fly
to
killer.
keep our mobility.
Yeah, you don't want to see newts, you don't want to see long webs. Couple that with the curse and the
Yeah, and
rapier, and you've just telegraphed a lot there.
Yeah, that's
but
what you're saying. The
with-
damage or the risk between it or behind that is that you ban out something where there's quite easily like an alternative ship that could still do the job. So you're kind of throwing away a ban.
Yeah, but with that commentary, we do now have the teams on grid, so we will throw you across to the arena with CCP Aurora and Virion for this game 23 of the Anger Games in the losers bracket.
Hello, everybody. This is Varian Stoneshard bringing you game 23 of the Anger Games. Lollipops against Eire Engineers. Joining me is CCP Aurora, and we have one of the most amazing no-logi comps on grid that I've ever seen. Aurora, would you like to tell me a little bit about this?
Yes. So the Lollipops team has brought a Barghest, 2 kilos, Stork, a Hyena, a Vigil, and a Hawk. So this is what appears to be a team that very much wants to run away and apply pretty good damage while staying at arm's length, which is quite the opposite from what we're seeing on the other side of the field with the 2 APOC navies, a Harbinger navy issue, an Etana, a Mauler, a Manticore, and a Hound. It is a very interesting setup on the Eire side. I'm not entirely sure what to make of it. Can you try to guess at what Eire's plan is here?
It almost seems like the sort of like YOLO hull rush, but actually having range the damage. But the scary part is, you have a lot of DPS in that Hound and a Manticore, but are they actually going to survive more than 2 seconds with no logic to be able to do their DPS? Questionable.
As we see the match get started here, we can actually see, perhaps surprisingly, the Lollipops team is effectively rushing the back line of the Eire team. So they're trying to get on top of the ships in the back that they didn't want touched. And they are immediately taking damage with the Etana going almost straight into armor here, as well as the Harbinger Navy. And oh man, one hit, it almost goes through all of its armor. And that is going to be the Etana down in several seconds, quickly followed by the Harbinger Navy issue. This is not looking good for the Eire team. Oh, hold
That
on,
is
sorry,
insane. I don't think I've even seen a shield boost from the Etana. I never saw its shields go up above 0.
It just melted in this situation.
As I was saying, well, there goes one of the bombers, just died in 2 shots.
And the Eire team is about to lose a Harb Navy, but if this Barghest goes down, it's going to be a pretty not great position for the Bold team, as that is a major portion of their DPS, and those healers might have a bit of trouble breaking those APOC navies without the Barghest on their side.
Yeah, and the problem is the Bargus can't even like easily run away from this because the APOC navies, they can shoot so far out. So even if this Harb goes down, that Bargus probably will still die.
This is probably one of the worst comps that could have come, and I think part of this is likely due to the bans that we saw. So as we said, the bans were heavily broadcasted that we want to be able to move, which to me would say kiting shield comp. And I think that the Eire team saw this and said, all right, it looks like they want to bring kiting shield. What's the best thing that we can bring against that? And it is long range beams that can just shred those ships no matter how fast they're moving out at range. And it seems to be working pretty well at this point. We are still even on ships, and another Harbinger Navy is due to go down shortly. But with that Barghest off the field, the Bull team is lacking a fair bit of damage, and we're seeing a Gila entering half shield.
Yeah, and I mean the Bargus has a decent amount of shield tank, but now these 2 Gilas up against 2 APOC navies, I just don't think there's a way they can tank that long enough to do any real DPS here.
No, that Hyena on the Bold side is very clearly a tool to let them kite and kind of keep things at range, keep tackle off of them. It's a great screening tool, but the Eire team, it just doesn't matter to them. Because
Yeah,
they're
it's like,
able to
great,
kind of
you've
hit from
screened
wherever they
us,
want.
but we can still hit you, so cool. Well,
It almost might be a better idea for some of these ships to get in close, perhaps, if they can avoid the Mauler scram and try to get underneath the beams. But I'm not thinking there's too much hope here. Getting under the beams of those APOC navies would be their last chance, and perhaps they can slowly whittle them down with drones, but I don't think that's going to happen, as we see Bowman going into half shield in the healer.
yeah, and I
he
mean,
is,
really, even if the APOC navies just like spread apart 10, 20 kilometers, they'll still be able to hit a Gila. It's not that small.
Yep, and he is webbed down pretty good. It looks like he got to almost 0 on this APOC navy in that Gila. He is likely not moving very far. I think his speed right now is, let's have a look,
Yeah, under 100 meters a second. He's not going
94,
anywhere.
94 meters per second. So he's not particularly kitey when he is in grapple range of a battleship.
Well, I mean, 3 frigates versus 2 battleships and a Mauler, that seems realistically possible, right?
It's possible, but it's not probable.
I mean, to be fair, a Hawk might be able to get under the guns.
The
And if
Hawk might
these
be
are
able to,
buffer fit, who knows?
but with no healers,
No.
and the fact that these guys almost definitely have shield or repair drones,
Yeah.
it's not going to go down too likely.
Even if they could, time limit sadly exists, so.
Yeah, I mean, this is the sort of thing where you see a single frigate get on a really blingy battleship kill, or like a Rorqual or something like that in nullsec, because they have the ability to just wear it down over 18 hours because the pilot's AFK. So you see weird things like that, but unfortunately probably not going to happen in the arena.
No, and with the absolute tank and just insane range DPS, it looks like this is going to be an easy win for Eire engineers.
And that Hawk is actually taking quite a bit of damage, so his hopes to get under
Yep.
the guns were perhaps not
Yeah,
long
that's a
lasting.
scary thing about the Etana. It's got a really strong tank, a really strong reps, but when you have just a bunch of ships with beams that can just track it no problem, yeah, there's not really much you can do.
I think this is just a really great example of the dangers of over broadcasting with your bands, because this just looks like a case of very correctly identifying what you think your opponent wants to bring and bringing a really good counter to it.
Yeah, they didn't want to have any webs, any newts on grid, and well, okay, it doesn't really matter if that's on grid if they can just hit you from everywhere and do enough damage to kill you. That's quite beautiful. Just a stork and a hyena left. We'll have to see if they try and go for the glorious boundary or if they actually try and somehow turn this match around.
Stork's taking pretty good damage at the moment. It looks like he is making his way. No, he's still flying somewhat normally. It's just going to kind of be a slow match of the battleships trying to track these ships here.
I hate to say it, but I don't think that stork even has missiles. So unless the hyena happens to have a few light missiles or something fitted, then yeah, no DPS against 2 APOC navies is going to be a bit hard to make anything with.
I believe in the hero battle, hyena. I'm all for this.
You never know. You never know. At least he has one of the APOCs properly pinned down, so if only there was still some extra DPS left.
He hasn't really given up yet. You can see that he's got the long range web. He's keeping a really high transversal up, so they'd probably have trouble hitting him.
And there goes the stork, no longer able to keep his transversal up. He's popped, so let's see how long this hyena can survive.
We will see. Do you think there's anything that the bold team might have done different that match that could have changed it in their favor?
It's hard to say. As soon as that Etana went down, you're facing against such a brick wall of EHP and damage with these 2 APOC navies. Like, where do you start? I mean, if you primary one of the APOC navies, by the time that you finally killed it, you've probably already lost too much to really swing the match.
Yeah, there's almost it's hard to find a winning play there. I guess my personal call would be you want to get in around 15 kilometers and just go as fast as you possibly can without getting tackled to try and get under the guns of those APOC navies, because they're very likely beam fit. They won't be able to track super close up. So it maybe gives you a shot. And if you can take out the tackle and just kind of keep
Okay.
up the really good
So
piloting.
I do have an update on this match. Unfortunately, there was a minor referee error. Our engineers did bring an illegal comp, and as a result, we'll be forfeiting this match. It's
So the two APOC navies have lived to win,
Wow.
only to not win.
That
it is
means
unfortunate,
that the
but
hyena has, in a way, won this match.
that is an interesting outcome. Certainly unfortunate, but them's the rules, and it is there, right in black and white, and black and white.
Yeah, it's a shame to see a match get flipped that looks like it was good in another way, but that is kind of always the risk of double checking your comps ahead of time. So.
Yep. Accidents can happen not only on the grid itself, even when you're still preparing for the fight. There's plenty of things that you can do wrong as a team.
Well, I think that is the end of the match, regardless of whether or not this hyena manages to tank till the end. So congratulations to the Bolt team on pulling out an unexpected win here.
I'm sure they're going to be breathing a sigh of relief.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure they will. And this was a winner's bracket match, if I
Well,
remember
let's double
correctly.
check that. Unfortunately, no, this was a losers bracket match.
That's too bad. So that means
That
we
is
see.
unfortunate for Eire to be knocked out on a technicality, but
Yes.
as I say, them's the rules.
Well,
Okay, so we are back here. I do want to once again clarify. Unfortunately, that last match was an automatic disqualification for our engineers because of their illegal comp. 3 frigates is not allowed under our rule set, and we did write in a very specific rule about the way these things go. So unfortunately, we do have to say goodbye to our engineers in this tournament. We are going to just go straight into talking about the next match, which is a winner's bracket match between TEMPLIS, CALSF, and Fwaming Dwagons. Really, guys, why would you pick a name like that? Help me out here. But bans for this next match, we do have a duplicate healer ban, along with Etana, Dominic, Sleipnir, Nightmare, Barghest, and Rapier. So definitely people not wanting to see the drones and not wanting to see that double Sleipnir come in.
Yeah, so
Nice,
we're
how
seeing
little
that
it seems like they're
Rapier being banned without having the Hugin being banned, so it's a bit of a waste of a ban.
and
And
note
then
that the
we have-
curse is still open.
Yeah.
Yeah, the curse is open, and it can be really dangerous in the hands of a team like a TEMPLIS. They have shown they have some extremely talented pilots, so if they get their hands on a curse, they can wreak havoc on the Fwaming Dragons team.
I can't help.
Honestly, yeah, a curse in the right team might even be more dangerous than webs because you can't move, and not only you also don't have the capacity left to do anything else.
I can't help but feel like the nightmare bans are specifically targeted at me, because for a ship that we haven't really seen much in this tournament, to be repeatedly banned out after I said that I'd really like to see more of them, kind of feels like it's an attack, you know?
I think we saw 2 teams use it in the open practice, I think. But yeah, it just feels like a very specific ban because again, okay, no nightmare, but you could still like pull off the same kind of like long range beam damage with a lot of other ships.
Yeah,
and
it's
also the Rapier ban, but no Balgon ban or Hyena ban, but you banned the Rapier? Because usually we see a Balgon ban with these as well, instead of a Nightmare, so that's a very interesting ban.
So you're also seeing the Dominic's ban by TEMPLIS, and we saw yesterday that the double curse setup was picked apart by a team with 2 Dominics and some other DPS support. So they might be trying to ban out that setup so they can actually bring this curse setup.
the
So that's
curse.
what I'm betting up.
The curse can be a bit of a trap for particularly the newer teams, So it's possible for a new team to hear us hyping up the power of the curse and try to bring it. But if you don't have a good pilot in the curse who's able to, make sure that they're within range of their own logistics when they get primared, because the curse doesn't have that much tank, and make sure that, if their positioning is not good and the team's not able to capitalize on good positioning, the curses can just die very easily. And that puts the team in a pretty bad position. So it's not a win-all ship here. However, that said, we're looking here at two teams who have both very good pilots. TEMPLIS having just won the last Alliance Open, and Fwaming Dragons being relatively well known.
Yeah, I think
It'll
as
be
Miz said it the
interesting to see.
best last week. Miz said it the best, I think it was last week or yesterday. The curse is a high skill ceiling ship. If you can't fly it, you ban it. But if you can fly it, you either not ban it and just decide to just like leave it there, or you let them pick it and screw themselves over. But it's such a powerful ship that if you let them take it, even a terrible pilot could make it work to a reasonable degree, just not quite as good.
With that said, we do have both teams now on grid, and it looks like the match will be getting underway here shortly.
Yeah, so let's take it across to the guys in the arena. We're going to be watching this match between TEMPLIS and Fwaming Dwagons, commentated by Aurora and Midtier.
Welcome to the next match between TEMPLIS CALSF and Fwaming Dragons. I am CCP Aurora, and here we have two rather interesting comps on field. Miz, can you give us an idea of what we're looking at?
Yeah, so I was wondering about the curse, but they still have brought the control setup just with the two Blackbirds instead. And top of that, they're having two Tempests for their core, Oneos for repairs, and then the Mages for links and Nurgle for tackle. In the meantime, the Fwaming Dragons have brought a double battleship core as well with a Armageddon and Praxis. And they're having a Rook, a Blackbird, and Oneos, and then Punisher and Malediction for tackle.
This is going to be This is going to be a bit of an ECM war at the start of the match, as both of those Blackbirds are going to very likely attempt to jam the other ones out, prevent them from impacting the rest of their ships, which could be quite bad. We're seeing the first damage starting to go onto Etrius Saraki in the Rook on the Fwaming Dragon side, and he's going down pretty fast. It's not looking so good. We may have possible ECM on the Oneros, so he could just pop here very quickly without being able to catch any reps.
You have to remember that this is an armored Rook, and as you said, yeah, this is going to be an ECM battle. And one other important thing is that the Fwaming Dragon have invested points in having a new ship like the Armageddon, but the TEMPLIS team is having two Tempests, so they don't need the capacitor to fire their guns. So this is sort of a counter to that Armageddon. They can just still function, these two battleships, still do a lot of damage despite not having any cap, or then they are right on top of that Rook. So at this point, they're smart bombing the repair bots. There's nothing the Rook can do to escape these Tempests.
No, however, he's surviving a bit more than you would expect for having two Tempests on top of him. It looks like the Tempests are moving a bit fast. They might be having a little bit of tracking issues. However, as they get that under control, they're going to start to apply damage. The Armageddon would like to get a bit closer. You can see that he's putting newts on the Tempests on the other side. However, he is held down in the center at the moment by the Nurgle. And so he's been repeatedly webbed. It looks like he's just finally moved over a newt onto the Nurgle, so he's now once again moving and would like to get into position on one of those Tempests to help shut them down. However, the Tempest is not a great ship for that Armageddon to be seeing on the other side, because it doesn't care quite as much as some ships might about the newt pressure being applied to it.
So one thing is that the Nurgle of Stalins on the Tempest team has locked down both the Armageddon and the Praxis, having a Repifier on the Armageddon and a Scram. Actually, no, the Praxis is not tackled, but still keeping these two battleships locked in at the center of the arena. They have not been able to move around much thanks to this little frigate.
And we are seeing a lot of damage going onto the Blackbird of Sergei Skazer. It looks like he's about to go down, and that will remove all of the ECM on the Fwaming Dragon side, leaving the TEMPLIS CALSF side with a strong ECM superiority, it is going to be very difficult for the Fwaming Dragons team to do much more at this point, because those Blackbirds are just going to absolutely torture those players as they try to shoot the proper targets.
The thing about ECM setups is that they can snowball extremely well. So now that the Flaming Dragon team have lost 2 ships, they only have 4 remaining. So that's 5 remaining, and that's 2 Blackbirds having to spread their jams between only 5 ships. So this just improves their power, it being even harder for the Flaming Dragon to get a lock on anything.
And it's really tough for the Flaming Dragons team to do anything, because even though those ships can relock those Blackbirds and try to shoot them, they just don't have the setup to be able to hit the Blackbirds out at range. So they are pretty impotent as those jams are spooling. And we're seeing some damage go onto the Oneros of Daniel Sunkist as he enters armor. He will likely go down without being able to do much this match. Likely hasn't gotten out much reps, as he has been very likely perma-jammed by the double Blackbird setup on the other side.
Yeah, having these 2 Blackbirds being able to just work freely without having anything to threaten them makes it really hard for the Flaming Dragons to do anything about it. And in return, the Logi can just be jammed down easily. But instead, they're actually shooting the Logi, so they don't need to put jams on the Logi. You just have to kill him, and then while the rest of the team is jammed.
Yeah, and it looks like the tackle on the TEMPLIS CALSF side is doing some pretty good work. We can see that the Magus looks like he's just getting screened off of the Armageddon, who he went in for tackle on. Given the positioning and how he's basically coming after that Armageddon, it looks like he's just trying to get webs off to control his range, which will help that Oneros to spend a little bit more time alive as the Armageddon angles for him.
So it looks like the praxis of Flaming Dragon has gotten a grappler on the Oneros of TEMPLIS, but as soon as these Blackbirds land a jam on this practice, Oneros is free again.
The Praxis is about to have a very bad day, as both Tempests are on him at 0 and are about to start doing some really good damage. And with the gems being applied to that Oneros, he doesn't have much hope for outside support. So he will get whittled down fairly quickly over the next minute or so by these 2 Tempests, and that will be another point in the favor of TEMPLIS CALSF.
Yeah, just a correction to myself. I said the Praxis, but that's actually the Armageddon being on top of the Oneros. And he's catching on to him, but he doesn't really have the damage to kill him.
And with that, we're seeing the Praxis enter hull. He's about to go down. And yeah, I don't think there's almost anything left the Flaming Dragons team can do. However, we are seeing some damage go onto those Blackbirds finally. So it looks like they got relatively close enough. Some of perhaps the Praxis Armageddon were able to do a little bit of damage to them. But they are also just kind of very easily catching reps from the Oneros that they have kept alive. So it doesn't particularly matter too much to them, and I don't think they're at risk of dying as their armor is repped back up.
Yeah, at this point, the Flaming Dragon team doesn't really have much DPS to threaten the TEMPLIS team. Like, the only real DPS they're having is the drones of the Armageddon, since the remaining ships just on the Neos and then 2 tackle frigates.
Yeah, looking at this Armageddon, it is a full control fit. So it is effectively kind of almost like a giant curse in terms of just being an absolute monster with long-range newts being able to apply a lot of pressure to multiple targets. It can be a fantastic choice, but taking a ship like this does mean that you're limited, or you've spent a lot of points on a large control ship when most comps only have 2 main DPS ships. So it severely limits the DPS output of your comp, and when you lose your DPS support, it means that you have lost quite a bit. So either that control works and you manage to get kills and prevent the enemy team from killing you, or you lose a ship and it's basically game over.
So what do you think about the choice of these Tempests instead of Hyperions? It's almost like they predicted that the Flaming Dragons were going to bring newts. I actually think that these Tempests have a Nosferatu. At least I'm seeing that animation
I
on the
I think that's
fancy UI.
actually that's a fantastic point. I think it was entirely intentional because the curse was left open. So they intentionally left the curse open knowing it was a strong ship, but then brought the AC Tempest in because they knew they would be able to hurt those curses pretty bad and the curses wouldn't impact them quite so much. And then the Blackbirds to back it up, they were basically baiting and the bait was not taken, but it didn't really matter as the Armageddon that they brought instead wasn't quite as effective. So it still worked, even though they didn't get the comp they were expecting in return.
I mean, they still got a Newton control setup they're facing, just a different one, and they executed it perfectly in order to dismantle it.
Yep, absolutely. This is a very clean victory for the TEMPLIS CALSF team, showing us once again why they won the Alliance Open this past fall, and may go on to win this event once again. Remains to be seen.
So it's just the Punisher of Mania, Tavaka, remaining, and he's burned far away just fooling around having 2 acolytes on his tail. As he did the MJD trick to commit Sudoku in a final attempt to get some glory and fancy numbers.
And with that, we have the end of the match and a very clean victory for TEMPLIS CALSF, and we will send it back to the arena. Not the arena, the studio. The studio is where we're sending this.
And welcome back to the commentary desk here at the Anger Games Rebirth. We just saw a very commanding performance from TEMPLIS, really just dismantling that Fwaming Dragons team. We will see Fwaming Dragons again next weekend because that was a winners bracket match. And while the teams are getting set up in system, we're just going to talk about this next losers bracket match, which is the Weekend Warriors versus Waffles. 2 very strong teams, and bands here we've got Neros, Guardian, Armageddon from the Weekend Warriors, and Rattlesnake, Curse, and Blackbird from Waffles. What do people think here?
So Weekend Warriors definitely don't want to see a strong armor setup banning 2 of the lodges. They're still leaving Disarmest open, so they might be having a comp that can target switch reliable to counter Disarmest. And again, they clearly don't want the long range neutralizers.
Yeah, but it kind of just seems like a weird pick because then you leave Curse, you leave Balgorn. It's just feels like there's enough alternative options to be like, yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Well,
They might have
Curse has
been,
banned.
Curse was banned by Waffles, yeah.
but they
Oh, yeah,
don't,
you're
they
correct,
don't know
you're
that
correct.
until after they
What?
submit their ban. So it could have been a 3D chess play of hoping that the other team bans the curse.
that would be
I could
something.
be wrong as well. I could be wrong on this. This is just my opinion. I don't think people are thinking people are going to pick Balgorn just because it's so much points just for a nuding platform where Armageddon
True.
or Domi can do it. So like, yeah, you say same thing for an Armageddon, but that's still cheaper than bringing a full set Bal for the sole purpose of maximum suck.
I would say that the Oneros Guardian ban, without banning the Zarmazd, kind of broadcasts to me that they might be looking at ECM, because ECM can be or a comp that includes ECM of some sort can be a decent counter to Zarmaz, because as long as you get a cycle every now and then, you can prevent it from spooling up, and it allows your main DPS to punch through. So we'll see if I'm right. It's just a guess, but I think that would be something on my mind for the Waffles team, would be they might want to bring ECM. They did ban out the Blackbird, but there's still a lot of ECM options that are available.
I wonder if that's Waffles being a bit smart as well, realizing they're probably going to want to bring a Blackbird or an ECM comp and just kind of like predicting it. Because that does, like, the Blackbird's kind of the core of most ECM comps because it's, good value for cost. So I'm wondering if they saw that coming and immediately just went, nope, you're not allowed to have that.
It's entirely possible. There are a lot of other choices, though. I mean, we saw the Rook earlier, and the Kitsune or something is almost equivalent for the points and still fairly effective.
I mean, I agree. That's to say, but I agree with that one, mate.
Yeah, I still feel like there are many options for both teams. Obviously, strong armor setups are a bit limited, but there are many shield setups or armor setups with Logi frigates.
I like the Geddon ban, but I'm not going to stake a claim on it. It's definitely, I like that ban more than a Balgorn ban, but I would have expected them to ban the curse as well. Who knows?
And something to keep in mind too is the things that they leave open with this. So, you know, they're pretty happy having banned out some of this stuff. Like, what would they be okay seeing? Like, would they be all right going up against a shield comp, for example? Which it seems they might have gotten their wish if that was the case.
Yeah, we are seeing teams just now landing on the grid, so we'll throw you over to the arena in just a second. Definitely some interesting choices here.
Yep, this is not what I expected to see. A little bit different.
They're somewhat similar.
Somewhat,
Well,
yeah.
not a little. Not
That's like the
super.
most polite way to say it. It's like, that's somewhat similar.
I mean, so many ships are the same hull, technically, like the same base hull.
I'm seeing a few too many Drake holes for my liking, but
Yeah.
I suppose that's a personal bias.
You can never have too many Drakes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, you can.
Can I bring my Drake? The answer is always yes, which is how we wind up with these comps.
Yeah, just throw us over to the arena when ready, please, and we'll see what we can all see.
Okay, miss.
Hello everyone, I'm Midtier, and with me is Wingnut, and we are casting game number 24 of the losers bracket of Anger Games. This is Weekend Warriors in red versus Waffles in blue. And Wingnut, can you tell me a bit about the setups they brought?
Yeah, so Waffles bringing double Nighthawk, Loki, double Hawk. Sorry, no, not double Hawk. Hawk, Worm, double Kieran, and then Weekend Warriors bringing Drake Navy. So the exact same hull type, just a cheaper variant. Double Gila instead. Etana, Harpy. So kind of similar comps in a way, but just different ships and ways of doing it. So I'm kind of curious to see how this one goes.
Yeah, so Waffles have sacrificed some Logi power by instead bringing Loki with long range replifiers, while the Weekend Warriors are gone for strong Logi reps, but lacking this long range replifier, instead relying on two Harpies to control. So we're going to see who's going to pull this off as the match just has begun.
I think one of the big killers for Waffles is going to be those double Gilas that Weekend has brought. That is going to make their Worm, Hawk, and the two Kirans just scream under these drones. Because they're just ridiculously powerful. It takes us one good hit and it just strips your shields in one go. Look at them charging
you can
in
see
there.
that the Weekend Warriors are pulling away as quickly as they can while the Waffles team are burning in. The Hawk of William Leon is taking damage as he's right in the front, but he looks like he's turning around trying to pull back and catch reps from these Kirans.
Put a Gila up, good call on that as far as I'm concerned. The Gila is probably one of the easiest things they can kill. They probably want the Etana, but you might as well kill DPS while you've got the DPS to do it. And I mean, two Nighthawks is like, what, 2,000 DPS now? So they could definitely rip through a Gila, even through Etanas.
Yeah, so these are Ham Nighthawks, so they're doing a ton of DPS, and we're seeing that Gila just getting evaporated while the Hawk is still tanking.
Oh yeah, those are the Hawks alive. They've already removed one of the Gilas, so those Hawks and Kirans will have a better chance of survival. But now they need to tackle something else and go for that. It looks like Drake Navy's tackle one of the Nighthawks. So I suspect that's probably the same for both. Nope, other Nighthawk is currently free and has... Never mind, it actually has tackled the other Drake Navy. So all the Drakes are brawling together now. There's the Battle of the Dustbusters here.
Yeah, and if you're in a brawl, you really want to have the close range weapons, as these Nighthawks are just doing a ton of DPS. But it looks like the Waffles are going to lose their Kirin as they're slowly breaking through the shield.
If they get this Gila, I'd consider that worth it. To be honest, that is so much DPS removed and so much tank removed. They should now probably be able to pick on the Etana or one of the Drake Navies, perhaps, instead of splitting DPS. But now the Kirin might even survive now. That Gila is probably one of the things doing like all the damage to it. Now it's got a good chance of survival.
Without the healer, they're losing much of their anti-small ship DPS. But even the Eternas have been caught, but at this point they could probably just punch through these Navy Drakes if they wanted with the high amount of DPS they have.
I mean, might as well go for the Eterna while it's there. Kieran's going to stay alive now, so you don't have to worry about a DPS race. You can just take out their Logi and start picking up these Drake Navies. But I'm actually surprised that Nighthawk was able to get there.
Kieran has completely stabilized, so it doesn't look like they're going to be killing him. The Eterna is trying really hard to stay alive, but I don't think he'll survive for that long.
Yeah, he's repping as hard as he can, but there's only so much he can do. I'm watching the other Nighthawk. He's shooting the Drake Navy instead because he's too far away. But I managed to screen one of the Nighthawks at least. They managed to hold one, but the other Nighthawk slipped through their fingers and got straight to the Eterna. I suspect if he wasn't able to get away, that Eterna would probably be doing God's work right now. But he's now in hull and he's gonna go. Look how hard he's trying. Look at those reps.
And in the meantime, Bacardi Desire in the Navy Drake has been tackled and is taking a heavy amount of damage from that Nighthawk.
At this point, their Logi's gone. That Drake Navy has nothing but his own buffer left, and his buffer is, well, gone. And also, the one thing to note as well with Drake Navies, they're great ships for like DPS and application, but unlike the regular Drake, they don't get the resist buff. So even with the Eterna, his resist is less than a regular Drake. But he can really put out the hurt though, even though he's just exploded.
But even a resist buff isn't going to do much about the DPS of two Nighthawks and a Loki. So this has been a really brutal setup to get up against.
Exactly. Once the Logi was gone, it didn't matter what Drake you brought. It doesn't matter which Dustbuster you're flying. When you're Logiless, you're dead. It just takes a little bit of time.
At this point, it's just a cleanup job. Two Harpies and a Navy Drake they have to kill. Tansy Babe is doing his best to kite away, but these two Nighthawks are right on his tail. He's probably already. Now the Loki is dealing with the Harpies instead.
Yep, doesn't matter. The Nighthawk's caught up to him and is just shooting him. There you go. There's I think it's a scram onto him, so he's not going anywhere. Yeah, Harpy's got deleted. I expect the Loki might have done that one entirely solo, to be honest.
I mean, the Hawk and the Worm are still there as well. And it's just the Nighthawks taking that Navy Drake apart.
Yeah, I think this match was lost the moment that second Gila went down because they couldn't. If they killed the Kirin, they could maybe start pulling this team apart, even though they were losing their Logi. But the moment that Kirin survived, there was just nothing you can do. Your damage is doing nothing. So yeah, you have to try and burn down a big ship, which I think they did give it a good try. But Nighthawks are just really bloody tanky.
Yeah, they had two tackle ships and the Loki with the long range weapon fires, so they were hard to kite. As we are seeing GFs and local, and we unfortunately have to say goodbye to the Weekend Warrior. It's Monday tomorrow, so they are no longer going to be great warriors. Sending it back to the studio.
Okay, and we are back with the commentary desk here ahead of the last match of the Anger Games Weekend 1. We will be going to D-Line Force against Sudden Vydra in just a few minutes. But before we do that, we want to say goodbye to the Weekend Warriors. Thank you very much for participating. You put on a good show, but those Drake Navies just couldn't face off against their bigger, badder brother, I guess.
Just battle for the ages.
Yeah, I really loved that setup that Waffles brought to that last match. It was actually very much like the meta that we saw emerge from the Alliance Open, with the Nighthawks for primary DPS and then Lokis to back them up. And that was a primary meta, so I'm actually surprised it took us this long to kind of really see it in its full glory in this event.
That's caught my team off guard as well, because you end up banning the Sleipnir for Sleipnir Gila stuff, and you just replace it with a Nighthawk, and it just does the exact same job. Maybe even a little bit better.
One thing that kind of got me there was where was their DPS going at the start of the match? Because obviously the Gils are doing their best, their absolute best to kill the Kirin. But what was the Drake Navies doing? I didn't see damage going anywhere.
They were shooting the Hawk eventually. They pulled away a little bit and then ended up shooting the Hawk, I think it was, or
that's a really
interesting
choice of the two for heavy assault missiles.
Yeah, I found it confusing as well.
I mean, I would have tried to pressure the Loki if possible, but that's obviously, hindsight 2020. Like, try and pressure the one ship you can get. Because going after the Nighthawks is just a waste. The resist bonus is just damn good. Plus, obviously, links. They're really hard ships to kill.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
we saw the Atana. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the other direction. Never mind.
So yeah, just to talk about the bans for the next match, we are seeing the return of the Loki ban. We're also seeing Balgon and Leshak banned by D-Line Force. But what really gets me here is Southern Vydra banning the Dominic's Navy issue, as well as the Ordinary Dominics and the Armageddon, just not wanting to see those potential really high damage battleships with those T2 drones. Is this gonna play for them?
I have to assume it's some sort of like mind game ban.
Meme ban.
Who
for
is
sure, it's gotta
actually
be.
scared of a Dominic's Navy, Dominic's, and Armageddon so specifically scared that that's the ships you choose to ban?
It's got to be a meme ban, because if you're banning Dominic's Navy, you actually care. It means you're kind of worried about like hull rushes, which means you could go for a Mega Navy. I don't know why you'd ban Dominic's Navy for any other reason. It
And
doesn't.
you can't even
seem-
really ban that out because you can still go for Megaphron, you could go for Vindicator, you could go
Yeah,
even
but the
for like
Navy-
overhauls.
It's
Navy
it's
variant's
pretty
better.
clear that they are fearing the setup that the D-Line Force brought yesterday, based on 2 dummy hulls. So they're banning out all the armor drone battleships. So no
Yeah.
dummies, no Navy dummies, no Geddons. So I don't want these. They really don't want to face this setup.
It might be just trying to throw them off of their game. It's possible that Vydra thinks that that's their most comfortable comp, and they want to force them into something different that they're not quite as used to. So that could be just what we're seeing here.
Yeah, it's a curious choice, but we are seeing these teams just landing on the grid now. Some interesting choices here. Yeah, let's throw it over to the arena. And, let's let Wingnut and Virion have a bit of a chat about what they're seeing here for this, the last match of Angry Games Weekend 1.
G'day guys, welcome to the final match of Anger Games Weekend 1. I'm Wingnut, joined by Variant, and we have this match of D-Line versus Vydra. And Variant, do you talk me through what you guys have brought?
There is a comp here that I've never seen before. A Guardian, Paladin, Oracle, Lachesis, a Bomber fit in, and then a Nurgle and a Pontifex. It is such a kitchen sink assembly of Amar damage plus, a little bit extra utility out of Lachesis. Meanwhile, D-Line, a lot more traditional. They've brought 2 Typhoons and a Neros, Magus for links, a Nurgle, Supple, and Richie for tackle.
Keesus is definitely not like I was expecting to see today, but that's
I
a very interesting got a Guardian. What in the world?
Yeah, it seems weird because like the Oneros isn't banned out. So what specifically do you prefer the Guardian for?
Yeah, I will admit I don't actually know. I'm willing to bet Miz is probably screaming in my ear right now, but I don't know why you're bringing a Guardian in this situation.
I don't think we've seen many teams voluntarily choose the Guardian over any other armor logi, really.
Yes, and also like I'm liking the Oracle pick as well, but the Paladin as well. Oracle
That's gonna be
Paladin,
a
long range
lot
build.
of range damage, and if the Latch can do enough damps, keep that Bomber alive, that's potentially a lot of damage projection. Those Typhoons might just be in trouble if they like get DPS rushed here.
And just checking the Typhoons as well, I believe they are indeed. Nope, they are. Wait, are those Torps? Okay, no mind. Those are Torphoons. I thought they were Rapid Heavies, but those are actually Torpedo
Ooh, and they're
Foons.
launching EC drones.
Yeah, not surprised. You like buy as much time as they can to get in there, but we're seeing a double Torpedo Foon rush, and they're going straight for that Paladin. Yep, 100% straight for the Paladin. They're going all in on this, and honestly, it might not be a bad idea with 2 Torpedo Foons just ripping into them.
Yeah, but do what you can with what you have before it gets killed.
Exactly.
And if you can get right on top of that Paladin, they're gonna avoid a lot of CPS. Saying that, the Paladin's already in like 40% armor.
Oh yeah, they're already shooting the hell out of it. They've gone kind of past it. They slingshot themselves a little bit, but it doesn't matter. These are missiles. They don't care. But look at that, the Paladin starting the hold. Now the reps are cycling. The Guardian's spooling up. Not spooling up, he's just starting to rep. Wrong word.
Yeah, now to see if 2 Torphoons are enough DPS against a Paladin repped by a Guardian. That is a lot of tank.
I'm looking at these ECM drones. They're on the Nurgle right now, rather than on, like, for instance, the Guardian trying to get like 1 jam cycle off. But like
Yeah, it
he's
seems
also
oddly
reducing
specific.
lockdown.
Maybe they were just more worried about not being allowed to get on top of the paladin.
But they're on it now. Remove those ECM drones, brother. Get them
Yeah,
on
start
something
putting
else.
him on something else. Yeah.
Also, as well, this Purifier is still
The
alive.
Oneros
and
has
counting
also
on him.
decided that brawling the paladin was the best choice in life to make,
I mean,
and that
it's
seems to
not-
be a mistake because he's now in half armor.
Yeah, it's not the most worst idea because obviously the paladin tracking is terrible. So getting up close can work. We've seen it before.
Yeah,
but
now that he's
the
grappled.
problem is this paladin has newts, so that's not quite the best of ideas.
Yeah, he's
And
grappled.
yeah.
He's not moving in the hull, and any second now,
Gone.
any second now.
He's got to be gone.
Yeah, there we
Yep.
go. Oh,
They
that
can
is
maybe
super
trade
worth
the
it.
paladin. They can maybe trade the paladin. You might consider it being worth it for them, but
Even
no.
if the paladin like goes down in the next minute, I would still say, yeah, that's worth it. You've killed their Logi.
Yeah, I don't know. Like once you notice the paladin had a nuke, you don't try and get under his guns anymore. This is more risky to you.
To be fair, though, if the paladin goes down, an Oracle is going to be
he's
like their main
solidified.
DPS left. But yeah, he's holding.
solidified now. And also, this paladin's been smart bombing too. So he's probably been removing either rep drones or just straight up DPS drones. So this paladin is going to survive at this point. Yeah, they got
Yeah,
nothing. The
those
Typhoon's going
Typhoons
down.
have got to be stopping their overheat by now. I don't think they're going to crack it.
They're not, yeah. And don't forget, these are actually torpedo foons. There's no reload, but it doesn't matter. This Guardian is actually just going to hold him forever.
I think D-Line might have just thrown it by brawling in with the Oneros.
Yeah, once the Oneros
If they was
would've
able to
done.
get like 20-kilometer orbit, maybe the Oneros could survive. But going in right nearby, yeah, that's not going to work.
And this team's going to get pulled apart now.
Yep, there
Maybe
goes the
it's not-
first Typhoon.
Maybe they start removing other stuff, perhaps, but they're not even trying that. They're just still pounding away. I think, here we go, look at the Typhoon. He's starting to build up speed. He's going to go, nope, nope, this is not winning.
Yeah,
need to start
damage
doing
is
something
going in
else.
on the Oracle. It's not a bad
Wait.
call. The Oracle is very squishy. It will still
Why-
have Guardian reps, but
Why is the Oracle that close? Never mind, he's not as close as I thought, but I thought he was like 30 kilometers away, but he's quite a distance. And it goes the tackle on the Oracle.
yeah.
Never mind.
Luckily, they still have a Steeple and Retri left orbiting him. And if they can get the Oracle down, the Typhoon might still have some local tank. He could maybe buy a lot of time, but I mean, he's not going to break that Paladin unless he somehow solo tackles the Guardian at this point.
Yeah, I think he's only asked us to kill literally everything else. He's got to get rid of the Guardian. He's
Time
got
for
to get
some
rid of the
elite
Oracle.
solo PvP, right?
Yeah, the best battleship pilots. Though we heard earlier, the battleship guys aren't the best pilots. They're always in the frigates.
Yeah.
Typhoon's been caught. He's not going anywhere. Paladin's grabbed him.
There's
and
absolutely no pressure on the Guardian either. He's just sitting at a distance nicely, not even moving, barely.
Yeah, and also like the Lack plus Guardian is an interesting combo because I think the Guardian generally has some like cap issues, but now that the Lack is stopping anyone from even shooting it, doesn't even have to rep. It hasn't rep itself up at all. It's just been repping up friendlies.
It might have also just played key here in giving like enough, short-term repping power with those extra highs. Maybe it doesn't have the capacity to keep doing that for the entirety of the match, but at least now the Paladin survived because he was able to put more, short-term repping power on the grid.
Do you know what probably is the most cruel thing as far as I'm concerned? The Lachesis isn't even moving. He's sitting at 0 MS. Because he just knows
It
no
doesn't
one can
have
do
to.
anything about it.
There goes the
No
second
one can-
Typhoon, and
no
now
one
it's
can
just
do
the
anything.
Retri. That
That's just cruelty.
is an incredibly unusual comp coming up against another unusual. You don't see Torp Typhoons all that often.
Every once in a blue moon, and they also work once in a blue moon.
Yeah, they didn't work against a Paladin, though, sadly. That is
Yeah.
a commanding win for the Suddenly Vydra team.
Yep, and we're gonna take it back to Stu and see what Miz and Aurora think of this.
Okay, so very interesting match right there. Sun Vydra stomping all over D-Line Force a little bit there with that Paladin, the Cheesis combo. Really, really quite interesting stuff. Let's go just around the room real quick for a final comment on that match, and then we will say goodnight. So, CCP Aurora, what did you think?
Man, I don't know what to think of that match. The Vydra team is pretty different from most of the other comps that we've seen today. Not the first Paladin, but especially the Lachesis. I think the Lachesis probably was the reason that the other team brawled in so hard. Because they realize that if, they might have lacking issues and they're just like, let's just get on top of them so we don't have to worry about the Lachesis. They could maybe neutralize them a little bit. It's still effective, however, in keeping the DPS off of the Guardian. But in terms of the comp selection that suddenly Vydra brought, it just kind of feels like a meme to me. It doesn't really seem like a strong meta play, and it's probably, in my opinion, it's the kind of comp that you want to bring when you don't want to broadcast your other comps this early in the tournament. So they felt confident that they could beat this team. They brought something a little bit abnormal in order to do it, and they didn't have to show their cards that they're more likely to use in matches where they feel they might need it a bit more.
Yeah, fair enough. And Miz, do you agree?
Yeah, I think it's like an odd setup. I can definitely see how it's supposed to work. So this is like something to surprise people and then just use it and then don't think about it and then keep their stronger setups for later. They talked about the Guardian as a logi. The thing the Guardian offers over the Onias is two things. First of all, it has a Mars sensor type, so if they're facing ECM, then it's the same sensor type as pretty much the rest of the team aside from the Lachesis. And secondly, it has more high slots, so it can actually fit more repping power at the cost of having less mid slots for things like ECCM or going dual prop. But in return, they have the Lachesis to damp down stuff, and that means the Lachesis can kind of cover for the Guardian and also cover for the Bomber and the Oracle, which are also really squishy ships. So they're trying to force things to come in close and then just brawl them down.
Yeah, for sure. So that was our last match. We see D-Line Force dropping down into the losers bracket. We saw a number of teams leaving us through the losers bracket as well today. I do just want to say a few quick thank yous to everybody on our commentary desk, including Yintan and CCP Swift, who both had to disappear off a little bit earlier. Massive shout out to Bay RJ for helping us out with the stream production today, and just generally the entire Eventi team for helping support us produce the Anger Games. Thank you all, and have a great night.